jury will not be sequestered.
I'm Brian Buckmeyer along with Terry Austin.
In the Weinstein case, fellow silence breakers and any
Selection is moving along
Well,
here.
I'll read the verdict, says the Jesse Weber. Thanks for joining
We
us.
don't tend to see it as raw as this.
Good evening and welcome.
Welcome back to For the Record. My name is Bob Bianchi. I'll be taking it to 3 o'clock. A lot of interesting stuff on the plate today, but we are mainly focusing on Wisconsin versus Theodore Edgecomb. This is the road rage incident. In case you're joining us, the state has rested its case, and as is typical in a case like that, they make a motion for judgment of acquittal at the end of the state's case before the defense begins. They are live in court right now. The defendant is expected to testify, claiming self-defense of the killing of Jason Clearman, an immigration attorney who the prosecutors say shot in the face, and say, no, it's not self-defense, it's intentional homicide. Let's see whether or not the defense is able to convince the judge that a motion for acquittal is appropriate at this point in time. Let's go live. All right, being advised by our producers, a quick motion. They normally don't take long. That motion, not surprisingly, has been denied by the judge, which means the defense has an opportunity, if it wishes to present a case, and the defense has indicated that they are going to be presenting witnesses in the case. So, of course, Theodore Edgecomb is the main witness we want to hear from, but sometimes the defense will put on witnesses before the defendant, which they typically want to put on last, seeing how the witnesses before him would do. So, I think it may be time to bring the guests in, if that is appropriate. Somebody will let me know that. And while we're waiting for that witness to come on. So, yep, okay. I was being told that we are live.
Right hand,
So
please.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Please be seated. State your full name, spelling first and last for the record, and you may remove your name.
Officer Raymond DeBraska. It's R-A-Y-M-O-N-D D-E-B-R-A-S-K-A.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Judge. Officer DeBraska, can you give us a brief overview of your current employment at the Milwaukee Police Department?
I'm a police officer with the Milwaukee Police Department. I'm currently assigned to District 1.
Okay, and how long have you been an officer with the Milwaukee Police Department?
Since 2012.
2012. And currently, what is your title there?
Police officer.
Okay, and so you've been a police officer since 2012, or do you have any other prior experience before that?
I've been a police officer since 2012. From 2009 to 2012, I was a police aide.
Okay, can you give us...
Police aid.
Aide.
Police aide. As a police officer, can you give us also an overview of what some of your duties are?
Responding to calls put into service for us, patrolling, doing traffic stops, things of that nature.
Okay. Would you be known as like a field officer?
Yes.
Okay, and do you have a partner?
Yes.
And who is your partner?
At that time, it was Officer Esther Kremsarova.
Okay. So then let's talk about at that time, September 22nd, 2020. Do you recall that evening and why you were dispatched to a certain location?
We were working that evening, and we were dispatched to a shooting at the intersection of Brady Street and Van Buren Street.
Okay. And do you remember approximately what time you arrived there?
Approximately 8 p.m.
Okay. And that would have been shortly after the shooting, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your role that evening along with Officer Kremsarova?
Officer Kremsarova, I believe, stood near where the shooting victim was, and I proceeded to put up caution tape around the area, and then I was assigned other duties throughout the evening.
Okay, now are you familiar with that general area, Brady and Holton?
Yes.
Okay, have you done some, excuse me, police work there, such as patrol or any other traffic duties you may have, or any other investigations prior to this incident?
Yes.
Okay, and then on that night, you were dispatched there, and you said that Officer Kremsarova was involved in, I think, being there, right? It was one of the first responders. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and where were you at that time?
While she was doing that, I started to put up caution tape around the area to keep any passerbys from coming into the immediate area.
Okay, and is that called maintaining a perimeter?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have any other roles that night?
Yes. I was instructed to call back those who had reported the incident, and as well as canvass around the area to check for any other witnesses.
Okay. So, do you remember, so you mentioned that you were, one of your roles was to interview some of the witnesses that were there on scene. Do you remember the names of those witnesses?
I remember speaking on the phone to Rod Trell Cameron and a Stephanie Trotter.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about your other task that night. So you mentioned that you were canvassing. Can you give us a brief description of what it means to canvass an area?
So when an incident occurs, something like this, generally we'll check any businesses in the area, any houses that are in the immediate vicinity, see if there were anybody that happened to be looking out their window and saw the incident happen, or if there are any cameras in the general area that may have caught the beginning or after, or maybe the incident itself.
Okay, and how was it determined that this was a task you needed to do? Were you given an assignment by a superior officer, or was it just something that you figure out?
At incidents like this, there's supervisors that are on scene, or the detectives, and they'll just kind of divvy out the different tasks that need to get done, and sometimes you'll get this, and sometimes you'll get something else.
Okay, do you recall what your canvassing assignment was specifically?
I was told to canvass the residences and businesses to the east of the intersection of Brady and Van Buren.
Okay, do you recall, so let me rephrase that. So your assignment was to go down Brady to the east and canvass that area?
Yes.
Okay, do you recall how many, like what kind of distance are we talking about in terms of canvassing?
I believe I did to the next intersection, and I'm sorry, I can't recall the name of the next street that is just east of there.
Okay, well, would it refresh your recollection to review some maps of the area?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit E5 previously. Do you recognize this? I guess we'll call it a poster board. Do you recognize this, sir?
Yes, it appears to be an overview of the area.
Okay. And do you see Brady and Holton Street, the intersection?
Yes, I do.
Okay, if you want to point that out to us, just to be clear. Okay, and officer, from your recollection, and for the record, Judge, he pointed at the previous X mark that's already there. That
Officer, is that correct?
Yes.
Fine.
And Officer Nebraska, can you tell us from your recollection maybe about how far you were canvassing that evening?
I canvassed up to the intersection with North Cass Street,
Okay.
stopping at the restaurant Casablanca.
Okay, so maybe about a block or so?
Yes.
Okay, did you ever come up to Marshall Street from your recollection?
Not that I recall.
Okay, all right, thank you. You can just go back to your seat. And I'm going to show you what I marked as exhibits D26, D27, and D28. Officer, I'm going to show you what's marked as exhibit D26, D27, and D28. Can you take a look at this and let us know if you recognize this?
Yes, it's a series of 3 overview maps of the area.
Okay. Now, can I have the document back?
Yes.
Now, just to clarify, let's move that. These maps are of the same general region that we were just looking at on the poster board, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I just want to focus your attention on the streets here, not necessarily some of the markings of the buildings on this map. So, officer, you said that you had basically gone maybe a block or so as part of your canvass. And do you recall maybe how many locations you had canvassed at, such as talked to witnesses or rang doorbells?
Maybe 5 to 8 different businesses and residences, I believe.
Okay. Do you recall writing a report about all the areas that you canvassed?
Yes.
Okay. Now, would it refresh your recollection to review your report to know exactly which addresses that you had checked?
Yes.
Okay. You just take a look at that and let me know when you've had a chance to look at that thoroughly.
Okay.
Okay, you had a chance to look at that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So, your assignment officer, and by the way, did that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Okay, so your assignment that evening was to go from 706, well, let me rephrase that. So you stopped at 706 East Brady Street, correct?
Correct.
And then you made your way eastbound on Brady, and the last address that you canvassed was 816 East Brady, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And do you recall how many different locations you may have visited?
10 locations, all on the north side of the street.
Okay. Now, I'm going to flip over to Exhibit D27. All right, officer, can you see that from where you're at?
Yes.
Are you able to see any of the numbers here if I were to zoom in?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that 816 East Brady was the furthest east you went that night for your canvas, right?
Yes.
Okay, so 816 East Brady, would you agree with me? Sorry, just one moment. That 816 East Brady would have been somewhere in, if I were to mark an X, somewhere in this area?
Yes.
Okay, so that's about as far as you went, and you had started at 706 East Brady, which, would you agree, is right here where I'm placing the X?
Yes.
Okay, so is that accurate in terms of your route that evening for the canvas?
Yes.
Okay, as part of the canvas, besides talking to witnesses, potential witnesses that is, does that also include observing cameras?
Yes.
Okay, and why is that important?
We check for cameras to see maybe flight paths, or for after an incident occurred, maybe the people fled this direction and passed the cameras, or maybe the cameras had actually caught the incident take place. So we always try and check cameras in the area of major incidents like this.
Okay.
Okay, Officer Raymond Nebraska, talking about canvassing, very important in the initial stages of an investigation, both with witness statements and getting electronic surveillance and making sure it's preserved. Let's take a quick break here on the Law and Crime Network. Let's see what the defense attorney wants to get out of this witness. We'll be back on the other end.
A band of brothers, finally reunited after 30 long years. Use Been Verified to search for the people you miss. You might just find what you've been missing all along. Been Verified, know better.
With Bonfire, you can easily fundraise by selling custom shirts online, upload your artwork, or create a design right on our website. In these unique times, you can still make a difference. Fundraise with custom shirts today on bonfire.com.
Letting go of my diamond ring was really hard, but selling it for the best price was simple with Worthy.com. They evaluate your jewelry to help you understand what it's actually worth. Then they auction it to their network of professional buyers. Get more for your jewelry with Worthy.com.
Looks like you're not sleeping well.
How did you know? Hey, Megan!
Hey, you're that guy.
The My Pillow guy.
That's right, and I'm here to help you get the best sleep of your lives. Oh, you have a down pillow. Here's the problem with down pillows. You lay there, you feel comfortable, and guess what? It goes down, and you got one bent neck. So this pillow's no good, and I see you sleeping on memory foam.
Right.
I'll show you what's wrong with that idea.
Okay.
Sleep's all about too high or too low, and I'm gonna show you where your comfort level would be.
So, you know, that feels better.
Right, that's better, but I'm not gonna sit and hold this all day. So every morning you're getting up like, you know, it's not good. Just like all of you out there, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and none of them worked. That's why I invented My Pillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck aligned. Call or go online to take advantage of my best offer ever. For a limited time, when you use your promo code, you can get premium My Pillows, regularly $69.98, now only $29.98. That's right, only $29.98. That's the lowest price ever.
It feels great to wake up in the morning and feel well rested. It's shocking to me that a pillow could make this big of a difference in my life.
Sleep is one of the most important things to your health, and My Pillow is one of the most important things to your sleep. Call or go online now to take advantage of my best offer ever. Use the promo code to get queen size premium My Pillows, regularly $69.98 for only $29.98. Get king size My Pillows for just $5 more. It's the lowest price ever. You're sleeping better.
Much better.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
With science-backed Calibrate, Vicky's weight loss is sustainable, ending years of unsustainable yo-yo diets. Medication, coaching, lifestyle tweaks. Lose at least 10% of your body weight or your money back. Join Calibrate.com.
I'm Dan Abrams, and you're watching Law and Crime.
desk was asked by the defense a number of questions that were identifying things that were moved into evidence, but no substantive questions about anything he found with respect to video or witness statements. The prosecution is now cross-examining the police officer on the stand. Let's go back live to court.
Watching a bunch of cameras, if you even know.
I don't know.
Okay, and because of what you provided, officers in the days following it went to these cameras to see if they could find anything.
Yes.
Okay. Did you try to see if you could find anything in the block east of this incident?
Further down from where I stopped?
Yes.
No, I did not.
No, I'm saying in the area that you canvassed. Were you able to find any camera footage that you were able to watch?
Oh, yes.
And did any of it capture the incident?
Not the incident as it occurred.
What about the punch? Did it capture that incident?
No.
What about an incident that may have happened before, swerving? Did you see any of that?
No.
You were looking for whatever you could find?
Yes.
And found nothing?
No.
And when you couldn't find anything, you made sure detectives could follow up on it?
Yes.
You also spoke to 2 911 callers?
Yes.
And you also interviewed any person that seemed to maybe have seen anything, is that correct?
Yes.
Did anyone see anything?
On my canvas? No.
Did you talk to anybody that may have seen a suspect running away?
I recall talking to an individual that was near the perimeter of the scene who stated that he had seen something. I gathered his information and passed it along to the detectives who then took over that.
And if he had seen anything, detectives interviewed him, is that correct?
Yes.
So you talked to every person you could,
yes,
and most of them had nothing except for one guy, and you passed him on. Don't even know if it was relevant.
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing else.
Defense? Anything?
Just a couple of follow-up questions. So just at no point, though, in your task that night was to, well, let me back up one second. At any point in time, Officer DeBorde, did you speak to the wife of the deceased in this case?
Objection, Your Honor.
What was that?
Objection.
On what basis?
I don't know where the question's going.
Did you have any opportunity to, in addition to canvassing, try to locate the area that an initial encounter had occurred between the two parties in this case?
No, I did not.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Stayed.
No.
All right, you can step down, officer. Thank you. Defense, next witness.
Judge, I believe our witness is here. It would be Lorenzo Hernandez. Just one moment.
All right, Melissa Pinkleton is a retired Nashville PD sergeant, and with me also Nicole DeBorde, former prosecutor and criminal defense lawyer. Nicole, let me start with you on this. The best I can make of this is the defense trying to bring out certain things that the police may not have done. The only reason I say that is based on the cross-examination of the prosecutor seemed to want to make the point that there was nothing of value with anybody that he had spoken to, with the possibility of one person that was pushed onto the detectives. What do you think?
I totally agree. And the reality is that I think that the defense is trying to establish the idea that, you know, look, the police didn't do everything that they could have done or should have done by the book, and therefore the evidence that was presented should be disregarded. I think that's going to be a really tough sell for the defense in this case. And, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not sure that this particular witness moved the ball down the field at all for the defense.
Melissa, you know, it's not, you know, this game of trial work is not just about, you know, just doing the right job. It's also about the presentation to the jury. And at the end of most cases, the judge can say you can find a defendant not guilty based on a lack of evidence. So a lot of times as a law enforcement officer, and that's your specialty here, you want to dot I's and cross T's and do these things, even though sometimes you know they may not produce results. But talk to us about how important the canvas is in the initial stages of an investigation.
It's extremely important because, and especially for this officer who's one of the first officers on the scene, I believe he said he and his partner were the first two on the scene, it's extremely important because you want to get every single solitary bit of evidence. And when he was testifying about his report, he should have, I will say this, I wish he would have prepared a little bit more. It would have come across a little bit better. It seemed like, especially in a murder trial, when you go to testify, you know you're going to be called to testify. You want to make sure that you go over the reports, and he should have known how many people he talked to, and he should have known all that and shouldn't have been chewing gum. However, all of it is very important because you do want to make sure that you haven't missed anything. And it's also very important that you're documenting it in your supplement, or as they refer to as the police report. Normally, the officers write supplements in these cases and the detectives write the reports, but you don't want to miss a thing. And especially when you come to court, knowing that murder cases usually are going to go to court, you should be a little bit more prepared while speaking on the stand.
Yeah, and then you also got to think about the defense lawyer preparing witnesses too. That's also an issue. Okay, guys, we're going to take a break because a new witness is being sworn in. We'll be back on the other side with that testimony. Please stay with us.
What is the internet's favorite razor?
I'm obsessed with Billy.
Billy. The internet has spoken. Go to mybilly.com.
We all know that movement is like medicine, but getting the movement you need to feel better can be a challenge. Now you can keep fit while you sit with QB, the world's leading compact seated elliptical. QB gives you active sitting, letting you burn calories and keep moving in an easy and low-impact way, all while you work, read, or watch TV.
I think it's really important to get people moving, and QB is an excellent way to start providing non-weight-bearing range of motion for those who have not been using their joints.
QB was named a top 10 gift by Time Magazine and has been featured all over the world with thousands of 5-star reviews.
My QB for me and my family has been a game changer. I feel young again.
QB is a lifesaver for me.
QB has developed a unique, patented technology that fits anywhere. It's whisper quiet. While it works more than half your body's muscle grooves. Experts agree, sitting is the new smoking. Using QB is proven to expend nearly 85% more energy than sitting. The low impact can assist your rehab or physical therapy and keeps you moving for better health. And you can monitor your progress, see your strides, calories burned, and duration of use, or turn up the resistance. Your QB comes almost completely assembled, and it's perfect if you're just starting on your quest to revitalize, suffer from joint pain, mobility issues, or just want to burn extra calories while comfortably sitting.
The QB is awesome to me.
You just have no excuse not to ride it. And if you ride it, you will, like me, get fit.
The heavens open up. Ooh, here's your answer to your problem.
Join the hundreds of thousands of people moving more with QB. Call to find out how to get your QB with free shipping and a 30-day completely risk-free trial. And for ordering today, you'll also get this QB workout mat free. Now keep fit while you sit with QB.
Order your QB now. Call 1-800-328-5961. That's 1-800-328-5961. Order now.
You would think a pan is a pan until Made In came along, and I went, wow, these things are something better.
Those are the pans that we use at Alinea, at one of the best restaurants in the world.
It's built for a home cook like me, but fit for Alinea like him.
What does the future of strength look like? It's a personal trainer that assesses your strength and adds weight as you progress. It's dynamic weight that adjusts for you in real time for a more efficient workout. Come on! And it's a roster of coaches that motivates you to get stronger, faster. The future is strength you can feel and results you can see. And you can only experience it on Tonal.
Grab her by the legs and pull her to the water. That's the only one that I ever killed by drowning.
This is prime crime.
Had you discussed alternative methods of killing your mother?
Yes.
we take you inside the most fascinating cases that the nation is talking about.
I don't understand.
Real footage from interrogation tapes to body cam video, we dig deep.
Can I borrow $100?
Absolutely not.
I don't need to hit up family and friends for money anymore because with Earnin I can access up to $100 per day from my paycheck instantly with no hidden fees and no interest. So stop playing. Download Earnin today.
I'm Jesse Weber, and you're watching Law and Crime.
All right, we're in the defense case in Edgecomb. This is the second witness. This is another police officer, Patrick Tefnan from the Milwaukee Police Department. The defense lawyer on direct examination focusing in on preservation of the crime scene and that you need to preserve it so that you can trust basically the truest picture of what occurred. And now talking about witness statements and the importance of taking statements. Let's see where the defense is going to go with this.
I believe 2.
Okay. And do you recall? I'm sorry.
One at a time. What was the answer?
I recall speaking to 2 witnesses.
And who were the 2 witnesses that you recall speaking to?
One was Mr. Perez, who I believe has already testified, and the second was a male. I don't recall his name at the moment. I wrote it down at the time, but he did not have anything relevant and told me something that was that I judged to be irrelevant to the scene. And I wrote his name down in my notes, but did not include it in a report. I do not recall his name today.
Okay. I want to go now to defense exhibit. Give me one. We're going to go to defense 50. We're just connecting the media at this time.
Your Honor, can you give the defense evidence control?
This is number 15, you said?
15?
Yes.
Yes, number 15. All right, so I want to just kind of go through. You recognize this to be your body-worn camera on September 22nd of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I want to just kind of walk through what occurred on that day as part of your investigation. We could go to 6 minutes, please.
Operator?
603, is that okay?
Yeah, that should be fine. Now, I want to just stop right quick. Is that Mr. Perez that you recognize that you're?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Playing at 603.
Your Honor, this is, I was going to object to hearsay and cumulative. This has been played multiple times before.
Your Honor, this is the Tefnan video. This has not been played at all in this trial.
This has been. You played this with this witness, with Mr. Perez.
Well, we're using it for a different purpose here. And
what purpose?
Basically, Mr. Tefnan does not, Officer Tefnan has obviously stated that he has some recollection issues as it relates to his investigation on that date, and obviously this video would tend to...
And when did the officer testify he has recollection issues? Those words did not come out of his mouth.
Well, he just stated that he does not recall the second witness that he talked to.
And that would be fine if we go to the second witness.
Right, he said he recalled this witness. You can play it for now. I'll see if it's relevant, but as I said to both sides, this is starting to get cumulative. It's starting to get repetitive, and that's going to stop. Go ahead.
Playing at 604.
There's a passenger in the Kia Forte. Is your bicycle on the street or the sidewalk? Is the bicycle on the sidewalk? Is he on the sidewalk the whole time? Is the sidewalk on parade? Hands on my here? So this Kia Forte, it's like, describe a bit more about confronting. What's it doing? They kept on like stopping, going, and then that's when they stopped right there. Okay, stand by. I'm just trying to get. Yeah. You can't hear if they're like talking to him, but okay. passenger in the Kia Forte gets out.
Stopping at 6:54.
Okay, so during that conversation, do you recall being interrupted by this second individual that you recall talking to at some point?
Yes.
Okay. If we could fast forward the video to approximately 13 minutes and 17 seconds.
13 minutes and
17 seconds.
Okay, it's queued up at 13:17.
Okay, you can go ahead.
2554. Check your address. All right, I need you to hang tight for me, okay? That's my understanding. Honestly, I can't verify that, but that is my understanding. But we can't tell if any of these other people saying around. Of course, yeah. But I believe that is the case. That is crazy. That's why I stand up, trying to work. I work 3 jobs.
Officer Tivenin, do you recall, is that the conversation you recall continuing with Mr. Perez after being interrupted by an individual who claimed to have information?
I couldn't tell you if the clip that you just played was pre or post being interrupted by the other individual.
Okay, and that individual had...
Sorry, I didn't understand your answer. Can you say it again, please?
Yes, ma'am. The clip that was just played, I don't know if that was before or after I was interrupted by another individual.
Okay. And do you believe that individual had a bandana on at the time that he came up to you?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you determine that the information that that individual had was not pertinent to this case?
He described 2 males that he overheard speaking in a vehicle. I believe he stated about a block and a half away in an alley to the southeast, and nothing that they said was specific regarding this incident. And at this time, I had already heard from Mr. Perez about a vehicle pulling up and his description of the incident. What this other man was talking about 2 males that he overheard speaking in an alley a block and a half away, did not appear to be relevant at all.
Okay.
In my judgment.
Okay. And do you recall taking his information down as to his name and contact information?
Yes.
Okay. And are those the 2 individuals that you recall speaking to on September 22nd, Mr. Perez and the gentleman that would have the white bandana on?
Yes.
Okay. All right, if we can now go to 42 minutes and 32 seconds. I mean, 30 seconds is fine. And that, I'm sorry, we can stop right there. You could back up a couple points just so we can just confirm. Right there. Is that the individual that you described as the second gentleman that had the bandana on?
Yes.
Okay. At this point, we can go to 42 minutes and 30 seconds. All right.
Your Honor, while they're getting that set up, can we have a brief sidebar on this? Sorry.
Yes.
All right, Melissa, so taking together all the witnesses that we've had so far for the defense, what are you making in terms of where you think they're going or trying to convince the jury? And understanding this could be a building block kind of thing, so we may not have great clarity right now.
I think they're trying to possibly show that maybe the officers didn't do everything they could have done or weren't as thorough as they could have been. And I will say this, just based on the testimony of the two officers so far, they're not impressing the jury. I'm not saying that it's going to, be the thing that convinces the jury one way or the other, but officers, again, when you come to the stand and testify, you need to be prepared. You should have reviewed your reports. You're allowed to actually bring your report to the stand if you need to. A lot of these answers of I don't recall and just the nonchalant, lackadaisical, I really do not appreciate about this. But if they're trying to establish that maybe they weren't as thorough as they could have been, they're kind of accomplishing their goal.
Yeah, Nicole, you've worked as a former prosecutor and now as a criminal defense lawyer. What are you making in terms of why they're calling them and whether they're scoring any kind of substantive points with the jury, given the amount of evidence the prosecution has in this case?
Sure. The prosecution clearly called the witnesses that they felt could present the strongest evidence in the cleanest format. Which they did. And what the defense is now trying to do is to say, look, it's not all that simple. In fact, these were officers who were there and responsible for putting the story you heard together, and they don't know what the evidence is. They didn't find all the evidence, and they couldn't even tell you that they looked in all the appropriate places for the evidence. So they're going to ask the jury ultimately to say that the state has not proven this case beyond a reasonable doubt. It was law enforcement's job to collect this evidence correctly, and they just didn't do it. However, I think the state's case in this instance is very strong. I do think that while the defense is doing their best, it's still going to be a very high hurdle.
Yeah, okay, guys, great commentary. Appreciate it. All right, let's take a quick break here on the Low Crime Network. We'll be back more with this really interesting aspect of this case, of course, waiting for potentially the defendant to take the witness stand, and that's where all the focus is going to be. Be right back.
First dates and the joy of finding out they're exactly who you hoped for. You've been verified to search the people you've matched with. You could find the info you need to let love do its thing. Been verified. No better.
With science-backed Calibrate, Vicky's weight loss is sustainable, ending years of unsustainable yo-yo diets. Medication, coaching, lifestyle tweaks. Lose at least 10% of your body weight or your money back. Join Calibrate.com.
No one can deliver your mom's homemade short ribs. That's why Instacart helps deliver the ingredients, and you add the love. Visit instacart.com or download the app to get free delivery on your first order.
The new year is here. Time for a wardrobe refresh. JustFab's VIP membership offers fashion must-haves to refresh your looks. Sign up and grab your first pair of great shoes for just $10 on justfab.com.
Letting go of my diamond ring was really hard, but selling it for the best price was simple with Worthy.com. They evaluate your jewelry to help you understand what it's actually worth. Then they auction it to their network of professional buyers. Get more for your jewelry with Worthy.com.
Attention! If you've had a hernia surgery after 2006 and suffered from serious side effects such as infection, chronic pain, organ damage, mesh shrinkage, or mesh migration, you could be eligible for financial compensation. Call the law offices of Wright & Schulte right now at the number on your screen, or visit meshjustice.com now. Ethicon, a subsidiary of Johnson & Johnson, has withdrawn its PhysioMesh flexible composite mesh from the market. Again, if you've had complications from your hernia surgery after 2006, you could be eligible for financial compensation. We can find out what type of devices were used in your surgery. Call the law offices of Wright & Schulte immediately at the number on your screen, or visit meshjustice.com now. You deserve justice, and the call is free. And there is no fee unless we win your case. Call now for your free case evaluation. Again, call the law offices of Wright & Schulte immediately at the number on your screen, or visit meshjustice.com now.
I've had acne, scarring, and hyperpigmentation since I graduated junior high. I researched skincare, and that's how I found Curology. When signing up for Curology, I just had to answer a couple of questions and take a couple of pictures. The thing about Curology that stands out to me is the customization. Skincare is not a one-size-fits-all. Now, I rarely get breakouts. Curology worked, and my skin responded so well. I don't even have to put on foundation anymore.
Something's bothering my stomach. I could cut out a lot of foods or figure out what's actually bothering me before removing and adding back. I'll do that.
I'm Brian Buckmeyer, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Okay, police officer Patrick Tivnan is on the witness stand. A little bit of a scuffle between the judge and the defense lawyer about how to ask questions about a videotape. Nevertheless, he is playing a videotape to the police officer. Let's go live to court.
You've been standing over there for a while now. Hey, Tony. I'm standing with this gentleman, Mr. Perez, as a witness, but across the way, there's a gentleman standing there. He's been standing there for a while. I'd like to go up and ask him if he saw any of this, because he's been there for a while. Okay, try to make it quick. Did you all good? Yeah. All right.
Okay, can you stop right there? That'd be great. So at this point, Officer Tivnan, you identified a third individual that could potentially have information relevant to this case, correct?
I did not identify him.
Well, you saw a man that's standing over there, and you stated that he's standing there for a while, and you would like to go talk to him, correct?
Correct.
Okay, continue.
Playing at 43:15.
I'll wait for you.
Hey, I'm assuming once they're done with this gentleman, they'll come talk to you, okay? That's cool. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, Rick. Gentleman over here's been standing there for a while. Maybe I should ask him. Hey, did you see anything?
No, fuck that.
No? All right.
We got the caller, we got this gentleman, we got his wife.
Okay.
We got actually people that were...
Can you stop right there?
All right.
I don't know what he said, but
Okay, so Officer Tivnan, you then go to Officer Michelli. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you asked him for permission to go talk to another gentleman that was standing over there with potential information to this case, correct?
I wouldn't call it permission. Just put it in discussion, the possibility of talking to another person who was on the perimeter of the scene.
Okay, discussion. And part of that discussion, Officer Mahalik then says, fuck that, we got enough, correct?
Correct.
And he further says, we have the wife, correct?
Correct.
He says, we have someone that called 911, correct?
Correct.
And he says, we have this gentleman, correct?
Correct.
And because Officer Mahalik, was that the determining factor as to why you didn't pursue this third individual who was standing there who you identified?
No.
What was the reason why you didn't go provide information to seek the information that this third individual could potentially have after Officer Mahalik says, fuck that, we got enough?
When I arrived on scene, then Sergeant, now Lieutenant Tim Garkey told me to do scene security, which is typically a standalone task. I was doing that, and as seen in the video, Sergeant Diana Barkas with the red hair came and told me to start interviewing people. That was fruitful and a good idea on her part, but at the time, I found that challenging because scene security and canvassing witnesses is typically two separate tasks. Once Mr. Perez had been identified as a very, would appear to be an important witness, I had a new task to continue scene security, as then Sergeant Garkey told me to do, as well as standing with Mr. Perez to make sure that he didn't speak to any other witnesses and wasn't contaminated in a sense prior to passing him off to a CIB detective. So I had two tasks, and the idea of taking on a third task not seem possible to do three tasks well, correctly. So I returned my attention to the primary responsibility of scene security, as well as preserving and staying with Mr. Perez as a witness.
Now, Officer Tivnan, at the particular time prior to you saying, I see this gentleman over here, you were interviewing potential witnesses, correct?
Correct.
All right, so that was your current task at that moment, right?
I had multiple tasks at the same time.
Okay. And going to talk to a third individual whom you identified as an individual who might have seen something, that would be consistent with interviewing potential witnesses, correct?
You could say that, correct.
And you would agree that there's never a point in a homicide investigation where a police department has enough, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Sustained. Officer. Also argumentative. Never appoint counsel. That would, come on.
Officer Tivenin, it's important to talk to every potential witness available in a homicide investigation, correct?
I would agree, yes.
And at this point, would you agree that this is somewhat within the first hour that this incident took place involving force being used against Mr. Clement, correct?
I don't recall the actual time frame, whether this was in an hour or it was a long scene. I don't know when this, how far into my arrival on scene or to the incident this is. So I can't answer that specifically.
Now, you're familiar with the standard operating procedures of the Milwaukee Police Department, correct?
Yes.
And in those standard operating procedures, it also puts a duty on you as a homicide patrol officer to talk to every potential.
Objection, Your Honor. There is no homicide patrol officer in the Milwaukee Police Department.
Sustained. Counsel, there is no such thing. He said he's a patrol officer that responded to a scene. He outlined for you his duties, various duties as an officer. There's no homicide patrol officer. There's no such thing.
Officer Tivenin, as a patrol officer investigating a homicide investigation, it is important, based off the standard operating procedures of the Milwaukee Police Department, to talk to every witness that could potentially be available, correct?
I'm not aware of the particular SOP or stands in an SOP that you are referring to, but as a general principle, what you're saying, I would agree, yes.
Now, it's also important to keep your body-worn camera on at all times when investigating a potential homicide, correct?
There's an exception in our SOP that we can turn our cameras off for particular purposes.
Okay. And those particular purposes would include if you're concluded your role in that investigation, correct?
That is one of them, yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance is to this line.
At this time, I would like to continue playing the conclusion of the video, please.
Objection, Your Honor, is to the relevance.
How's it relevant?
Because Officer Tivenin cuts his body camera off immediately after these remarks were made by the fuck that we got enough. His body worn camera goes off. The video will prove it. If we can play it.
No, you can't right now.
Actually, after that assertion, let him play it. It's not what happens. That's fine. Let him play it.
Fine, state withdrew their objection.
You can go back about 5 seconds so we can get a full.
No, play from this portion.
Play it from where it is right now.
Playing at 43:35, Judge.
We got enough. All right, fine. That's the hard part, is trying to keep the family away. Yeah. That part sucks. Yeah. Is he still there? Is he still there? Yeah. Yeah. Are you live? Yeah. Caught it or? Yeah, for a little bit. Any videos across the officer.
Now, Officer Tivenin, at this point, Officer Mahalik asks you, are you live, correct?
Are you what?
Live.
I didn't hear that exact bit, I'm sorry. Could we repeat the portion you're referring to?
Sure, we can go back.
All right, Melissa, we see where the defense is going with this, and whether or not this wins the day or not, I don't know. But as a prosecutor myself, I would not want to be sitting there with a tape that says, F that, we have enough. We've got the wife, we got the 911 caller, we have another individual, and this officer admitting that they should be, of course, it's common sense, interviewing all of the witnesses. This goes to bias. It goes to putting a square peg in a round hole. is this, from your standpoint as a police officer, no bueno, right?
At all. And you made the perfect point. I don't think this is going to flip the case. I don't think that this is going to, the prosecution still has a strong case, as Nicole pointed out, but this was an extremely bad call by a supervisor on the scene. If another officer has an observation, has been there, is like, hey, this guy's been over here for an hour, might need to look at him. I mean, the supervisor should have been like, okay, yeah, we need to look at him. It's a homicide investigation. Homicide investigations are the most important investigations that you most important crimes you investigate. So absolutely, they should have interviewed that witness.
Right. Yeah, Melissa, excellent point. All right, guys, we're going to take a break here. Melissa, I know you've got to go. It was great having you on. We'll still be with Nicole on the other end, so please stay with us. Shirley, we'll be right back.
I'm Terry Austin, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Oh, do you mind dropping it off in the kitchen? Taco fingers.
This is tropical.
We saved so much on food with every plate, we were finally able to take that hot tropical vacation we wanted.
And we might have brought a few things back. Pork and pineapple tacos?
Get your first box for $1.79 a meal using offer code TV179.
Want payday to come a little faster?
I get paid 2 days before everyone else. I love getting paid on a Wednesday.
Want to say goodbye to those long check cashing lines?
I can never see myself standing in a line at a bank again.
Get your own Netspend prepaid Mastercard with direct deposit. Your money loads straight into your Netspend card. Shop online, pay bills, buy groceries. Use anywhere debit Mastercard is accepted.
I use it every day for every purchase. I use it to pay my rent.
It's not a credit card. It's convenient, and you can even earn payback rewards on many of your purchases. That's money right back into your card account.
From eating at major restaurants to sending my mom flowers, I get cash back.
Because this is not a credit card, with Netspend you pay no interest fees, late fees, or activation fees. There's no credit check to get started and no cost to order.
I use my Netspend card for everything.
Be one of the first 200 callers and choose your card color. 1-800-866-0189. That's 1-800-866-0189. Get paid up to 2 days faster with Netspend.
2 out of 3 guys experience hair loss by age 35. Kinda scary. That's why I use Keeps. Keeps offers clinically proven treatments. And the sooner you start, the more hair you can keep. Get started for $1 a day at Keeps.com.
This right here is confidence in a bottle. It just gives you such a boost of confidence.
Not only does it change you on the outside, but something in the inside, knowing that you're looking better.
It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt in my life.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Well, today we're going to see one for ourselves and let you be the judge. It's called Plexiderm, and lifestyle expert Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and you'll notice the model has bags underneath his eyes and some sagging, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face, and that's how easy it is.
All right, what's the active ingredient?
Okay, so it's silicates that are minerals found in shale rock, and what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes, and as little as 10 minutes, no prescriptions, and very little effort. Even watching the video, this is a real, it's a model, but it's a real guy with real bags underneath his eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home. I had the timer on, and we were screaming. 4 minutes, 34 seconds, completely gone.
My real true opinion is holy words I can't say on camera. These lines bother me. They really do. And this is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I could feel it just lifting my skin. It was amazing. It feels good. Feels great. Looks even better.
And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles. So it targets all those problem areas.
So this would be a daily thing, or
it absolutely could be a daily thing. But the way you want to do it is you want to have a clean, dry face. You use a small amount because it's so powerful. You have high school reunions, you have events you want to go to, you want to look years younger. This is it.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work for yourself after your first application. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
I had acne, scarring, and hyperpigmentation. The thing about Curology that stands out to me is the customization. Now, I rarely get breakouts. Curology worked, and my skin responded so well. Life was good.
All right, the defense case called Patrick Tivan, a police officer in Milwaukee PD, drew some blood on that witness. And now on cross-examination, a prosecutor trying to rehabilitate, if you will, or cross-examine an officer, which is usually obviously an uncomfortable situation because usually the cops are testifying for prosecutors. Let's listen to the prosecutor's cross.
A training course at the United Bicycle Institute, which is one of two, I believe, bicycle trade schools in the United States for a certification course.
And do you work on bicycles for the Milwaukee Bicycle Unit?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 86. You were asked to take a look at stills of the suspect in this case, is that correct?
Yes.
And specifically, were you asked to take to see if you could identify the possible bicycle that this suspect was on?
Yes.
And what was, as you're looking at it, what did you believe that this bicycle was when you were looking at the photo?
It's called a GMC Denali.
Okay. And what made you think that this was a GMC Denali?
Very specifically, the combination of a grip shifter, which is a gear shifter you have to twist. That's typically only put on a mountain bike or something that's configured as a mountain bike because it slides on the end of a flat handlebar. The very unique thing about the GMC Denali is it has road-style handlebars, which are curved down. They're also called drop bars, or sometimes people refer to them as ram horns. The grip shifter, you can't slide it around the bends and the drops to get into position. So whoever manufactured the GMC Denali, I don't believe it's General Motors company, I think it's licensed, made the bizarre choice of cutting the handlebar down the middle to slide the shifter on, and then putting a shim over it and clamping that in the stem clamp. And when I worked as a bicycle mechanic at Working Bikes, we would occasionally see this bike, and it stands out because frankly, it's bizarre, almost an absurd choice by whoever selected the components for that model. This picture very distinctly shows a grip shifter combined with a road-style handlebar. That's the only bicycle I've ever seen that on.
So when officers, before they do a search warrant, before they identify anybody, detectives come to you with this and you go, you should be looking for a guy with a, what kind of bike?
GMC Denali, so it's licensed like the SUV, you know, but I don't think it's actually General Motors company. But.
And showing you what's been marked State's Exhibit number 60, that would be the type of bike that we see here, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, no further questions.
Fast.
Just a couple of questions for you.
Now, you testified just in your cross that, you know, the third individual didn't wave his hand at you, correct?
Correct.
He didn't say, hey, I got information for you, correct?
Correct.
But would you agree that it's your duty as a patrol officer to seek to get information in a homicide investigation?
If that is my assignment, or the assignment of that officer, yes.
Okay. So it's not a civilian's duty to go to a police officer to say, hey, I have information for a homicide, correct?
I suppose no.
No further questions. I would like to move Defense Exhibit 15 into evidence.
Other than the prior objections, any objection, Mr. Hubner?
Yeah, I'm going to object to 15 because 15, I think, contains way more than what was played. If you're only moving the portions that were played.
What we moved and received is exactly what was played, nothing else.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hubner, anything else?
No, thanks.
All right, you can step down, officer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a couple minutes after 12. We're going to break there for lunch. By now, you certainly know the drill. Don't discuss this case. Don't deliberate. Don't do any research on this case. If you run into the lawyers, parties, witnesses, anyone involved in this case over the lunch hour, they've been instructed not to speak to you, and you should not speak to them. I'm going to ask you to be back at 1:15. We'll try to start between 1:15 and 1:30. You can follow my bailiff out. Thank you. Everybody else can remain seated and silent, please.
All right, we have Nicole DeBorde with us, a former prosecutor, criminal defense attorney, Joseph Scott Morgan, forensic death investigator. Nicole, let me start with you. This was something of a witness, kind of amazing there. What do you think about whether the defense scored some significant blood on this case, at least with respect to shutting down the investigation, essentially, of witnesses that were at the scene?
You know, I'm not sure that the defense really did make a lot of headway. I mean, it certainly does appear that certain things were not per protocol and rules were not followed potentially in terms of making sure that they crossed every T and dotted every I. That said, this lawyer, unfortunately, is having real difficulties presenting evidence and even asking questions which are legally allowed in court. That, believe it or not, can sometimes be so bad that it can actually benefit the defense because jurors start to think, you know, is this defendant even getting his due process? You know, is this lawyer doing anything in a way that amounts to legal representation? And that may in and of itself cause a problem for the prosecution.
Nicole, that is an amazing point. I agree with Joseph. I was thinking the very same thing. And you've been a witness in so many cases. I have seen this kind of boomerang effect. Now, I know people have been critical of this judge, and I've kind of been defending him, saying he's not any more surly than people that I've dealt with this judge. But those judges were very careful with how they addressed the attorneys in front of the jury. And it got to a point, it seemed to me, that he was asking questions that the judge should have allowed, but he's really riding him and preventing him from being able to put his case on the way he wants. What are your thoughts about all that?
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were speaking to me.
No, that's for you, Joseph. For you, Joseph.
Oh, okay. Yeah, isn't it interesting how you can how an individual, whether it be a judge or a defense attorney, kind of drag their own personal behavior or predispositions into a trial, and it impacts kind of the rattle and the hum and the flow of how everything works. You know, particularly when you're talking about the intricacies of evidence, that's one of the big points here. You know, security of the scene, the attention to detail, all these sorts of things, and that's kind of compounded with any kind of, I don't know, idiosyncratic behavior or any other outside influences. You know, you got a guy on trial for his life, and so all these other little nuances that come along just kind of double or further complicate a case that's already complex enough on its merit.
Yes. Okay. I'm being told right now that they're actually having arguments outside the presence of the jury. Let's take a peek inside that courtroom and see what's going on.
By the way, we've discussed this multiple times at pretrial motions. I've made rulings which are not going to be revisited for any reason that I can tell so far.
So that's just my main issue. Maybe we can bring this up after lunch and defense counsel can...
Mr. Ahmad, briefly, in 30 seconds.
So, Judge, we already had our forensic expert for the video, Mark Robinson. He introduced video. When I met with Mr. Black, and we had spoken to him months ago, he had mentioned that he had video. We told him we had a different expert for it. And when I met with him in person for the first time over the weekend, because he's from out of state, he just showed me what he internally used to look at this case, and he created very short clips.
So hang on. You want to introduce evidence that you didn't have till Saturday, that you didn't give to the state, that the courts had no notice of, that was not listed as part of the motion, that was not listed at any point in time as to what this witness is going to testify about. Brand new video out of nowhere.
I sent Attorney Huebner the email that I got with the download links. It's just something he showed me to illustrate some concepts about video. I understand.
But Mr. Ahmad, okay, we're gonna break for lunch. That's too vague. It's something he showed me to illustrate concepts about video. What does that mean relative to a trial?
So, Judge, in this case, there's going to be two major issues that the exposition testimony will focus on. One being hindsight bias, which is like, now we know what occurred. So when we look at a video, we know what we can speculate. He could have done this, he should have done this, whatever. And the other issue is about video focus and how that differs from first-person perspectives, and what the eye can focus on in a moment is different from what video shows. And these are things that he testified to previously in a case that the court knows well about. So,
Mr. Ahmad, don't make me say again that this is not the Rittenhouse case, okay? It's not. And I don't care what he testified about in that case. I do not care. He will testify under the law and the facts in this case. And you and your co-counsel had multiple motions, a dozen at least, that were filed, all of which were ruled on. Mr. Huebner, you can have the last word for now, then we're taking a break for lunch.
Your Honor, I don't know why the defense counsel is going to, which is what I was told he was going to be doing, is generally speaking as this whatever hindsight 2020 whatever, and how video captures more than what people say. I don't know why he needs video clips, because the only attempt then in the video clip is for him to somehow render some expert opinion as to what the defendant knew or saw or could have seen. All of that is not relevant. He cannot testify as to what other people said. So he doesn't need the video to do it. He can sit there and talk about, hey, video may capture more and what witnesses see and all of that. Fine, don't care. Let's talk about it. But trying to somehow use video clips that I've never seen, that he's made, that I finally see for the first time on Saturday, I don't know what he's done to them. They're not the ones that were turned over to us by their other forensic expert. I'm objecting to the use of those clips.
All right, I'm taking under advisement. We're done. Back at 1:30 promptly. We're off the record.
Well, Nicole, I mean, this is some case. What do you think about those arguments that are being made? And talk to us a little bit about how appellate courts review this kind of stuff, keeping in mind that we're talking about a serious charge that leads to a lot of time if there's a conviction, and the appellate courts attempt to look at whether or not the case was fair against an individual. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
They do. On the other hand, the lawyers trying the cases are responsible to understand the rules. And so the appellate court is going to hold this defense team to strictly being able to understand and follow the rules of evidence. And the problem is just trying to introduce video testimony without laying an appropriate predicate for how it impeaches someone or in direct response to a question is just not going to be something that the appellate court saves this defense team from. So it's really frustrating to watch, quite frankly, as this judge tries to navigate, the lawyers just sort of offering evidence without a predicate and things like video without an impeachment predicate. I was hearing an argument from that team that maybe the information in the video potentially impeaches somehow the credibility of the witness or shows that he said something different on a different occasion. But I don't think that we heard at any point a question which gives rise to being able to play that sort of a video.
Yeah, interesting. And of course, appellate courts also have the rule in their mind that they don't visit the sins of the lawyer upon the client. But I think you're right, Nicole. I'm not sure whether or not they even made anywhere near a good record on that particular point. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here at the Low Crime Network. We'll be back with more and crystallizing some of the most important parts of this case that developed today on the other end. We'll be right back.
I'm Sean Sticks Larkin, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Hey you! Ever wanted to learn a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or time-consuming? What about French, Spanish, even Norwegian? If so, it's time to try Babbel. Babbel lets you customize how and when you learn. From quick 10-minute lessons on words, phrases, and grammar, to games that keep it exciting. Listen to a podcast on the go, or take a live online class with a real teacher. It's really up to you. Babbel's conversation-based technique was created by experts. They know a thing or two about what works. In no time, chatting about real-life topics will feel, well, effortless. So go ahead, see where Babbel takes you. More ways to explore, more ways to learn. Start learning today at babbel.com.
A band of brothers, reunited after 30 long years. You've been verified to search for the ones you miss. You might just find what you've been missing all along. Been verified, no better.
It wasn't Meta's fault that yo-yo dieting failed her. Calibrate works with her biology to end an unsustainable cycle. Medication, coaching, lifestyle tweaks. Lose at least 10% of your body weight or your money back. Join Calibrate.com.
Letting go of my diamond ring was really hard, but selling it for the best price was simple with Worthy.com. They evaluate your jewelry to help you understand what it's actually worth. Then they auction it to their network of professional buyers. Get more for your jewelry with Worthy.com.
Attention, if you have fibromyalgia, listen closely.
Hello, I'm Dr. Bruce Gillis, and I have great news. Scientists from the University of Illinois College of Medicine and I have developed the first definitive test for fibromyalgia. With a positive test, you can volunteer for an investigational new treatment to eliminate your symptoms.
Go to newfmtest.com to sign up now.
If you suffer from constant fatigue, brain fog, chronic pain, anxiety, depression, or poor sleep, it could be fibromyalgia. And now there is a conclusive test to prove you have it.
Go to newfmtest.com now to find out. The test is covered by most PPOs, Medicare, and other insurance plans.
Please don't miss this opportunity.
Space is limited, so don't delay. Go to newfmtest.com now. newfmtest.com. That's newfmtest.com.
Yeah, right. Paid before payday. Set up account. Money in minutes. No fees? For real? Secured through Plaid. Oh, so you know it's legit. Wait, so they actually got their money. Okay, I'm downloading Earnin right now.
Download Earnin.
Okay, we've been doing a deep dive on the Theodore case. As you may know, a lot of activities going on today. The state arresting after having calling a detective that talked about the about some of the words Mr. Clearman used, supposedly from the witnesses that were at the scene. And this is very important, of course, because the defense in the case is self-defense. So what was being said back and forth makes a difference. Was it just a, hey, you, what are you doing? Or was the racial slurs being hurled at the defendant as part of this encounter, which occurred in two separate locations? Take a listen. I'm not sure whether we're listening to that or we're still on. Joseph Scott Morgan, are you with us? Yes, Joseph, how are you? All right, you know, Joseph, the advent of Zoom and TV analysis and trying to put it all together, I just saw my beautiful face on the screen and I wasn't hearing a clip, so I'm saying, am I on or am I not on or what's happening? So Joseph, you know, give me your overall feelings about the case from the standpoint of the strength of the prosecution's case. I'm getting kudos by my producer for just, I guess, looking at a blank screen. So it's easy for me to just stare into a camera. I can do that every time. So Joseph, the whole standpoint of the case, I mean, prosecution putting on a strong case. What do you think of the whole case in general? And give me your comments on the judge, because I know you've been around the block with all kinds of judges. Soft, easy, hard, not hard. You know, what do you think?
You'll not hear me utter any kind of comments on a relative to a judge or my thoughts about them. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, and it's going to vary. You know, folks at home might not realize this. You go into a courtroom, and I know you guys have seen this too, but just from my perspective as a witness, the courtroom takes on the personality of the judge. That is their domain, and I try to teach my students this. Coming into this world, you just go in with first off, you go in with a general fear of you don't know, and it's like being set down in an alien environment. So you have to kind of get into the rattle in the hum of what the individual judge expects out of every actor in the courtroom, whether it be the defense, prosecution, or the people that are called to get up in the dock and and hold forth on what they're being asked to testify to. So in this particular case, though, I think that there's a bounty of evidence relative to it. I think that they probably made this case a bit more nuanced than it actually needs to be, at least in my estimation, because when I first heard about this case, it sounded pretty clear to me as to what the circumstances were that had taken place. But then you get into all of these kind of nuanced areas relative to racial slurs and all these sorts of things. And I don't know that there's necessarily any way to go back and necessarily validate those claims. This is the curious thing about the dead. The dead, they can't testify on their own behalf. They can't hold forth. So you can pretty much say anything that you want to about them, particularly in light of the fact that men's life is on the line here in the case. And so the defense has to put forth whatever defense that they can in order to, get them under that margin for reasonable doubt. So, it's just, it seems like there's a bounty of physical evidence, though, in this case that would point certainly toward the defendant.
Nicole, I want to kind of pick up a little bit on the judge piece here. We all have our horror stories. I mean, my first court appearance was just like one of the most horrific things I've ever dealt with in my life. Humiliated, embarrassed in front of a courtroom full of people. It turned out that the judge was wrong, but of course, they weren't going to admit that at the end of the day. Apologized to me in chambers, but that didn't. It left a bad taste. Also, remanded to a jury box at one point in time. One more word out of you, Mr. Bianchi. You're getting locked up. You mean starting now, Judge? I was put in a jury box for an entire afternoon with a sheriff's officer standing there, wondering what I was going to get carted off to the county jail. Julie Rendleman telling a story where a judge actually used to make her sit in front of the jury when he put her in time out, and she would have to just sit there until the judge said, okay, you can get up and you can continue. So, we have all these stories here, but talk to us about how difficult it is when you're a trial lawyer and you're up there and you got a lot of pressure on you. I don't think people possibly understand all the things that are going on in your head. When you have a judge that is as acerbic as this and making it so difficult, talk to us about how that affects you as an attorney.
It can really change the way that you try the case, which can be a dangerous thing, especially when you're talking about a defendant's due process rights. And the problem, too, for the judge is that once the judge becomes so frustrated with the lawyer and starts acting out on a pretty regular basis, they're going to make mistakes from a legal perspective. In other words, they're going to make rulings that are just not within the bounds of the law. And that's not to say that this frustration that the judge may be feeling isn't potentially reasonable. It is, however, a dangerous place for a judge to be in terms of cool reflection. It can also backfire, as we talked about earlier. A jury may watch this and feel that the defendant is not being treated fairly, and then give them the benefit of assumptions that really are not there under the law. So it's a problem, I think, when you have a trial where a judge has become so frustrated that their general knee-jerk response is to make statements in front of the jury that are damaging to one side or another.
Yeah, I that point that you're making about how the jury perceives it is so important, because in the end of the day, you're asking them to convict the guy, and they understand what the consequences are. And if they feel that the guy's not getting a fair shot, as a prosecutor, I'm worried about that psychology you're talking about. Anyway, let's go to this clip that we were talking about before with this detective that took the stand for the state, was one of the state's last witnesses, with regard to the words that they were finding out that Mr. Clearman may or may not have said, because they're so important to the context and nature of this case, especially vis-a-vis the self-defense claim. Take a listen.
What did she describe happened during that?
She indicated that they're on their way home. They're traveling westbound on Bradley.
When there's the individual in the bicycle, they're going westbound, the individual's coming south. Okay, they're going westbound, the individual's coming eastbound. She stated that she had to swerve out of the way to not hit the individual on the bike.
Okay. Now, did she tell you whether or not her husband said anything at that moment?
She did.
What did she say?
She stated that her husband stated, "What the heck?"
Okay, so I just want to be very clear. That night, when she's talking to you, she doesn't say, he says, what the F?
No, she did not.
She doesn't say, he says, F and a-hole?
No.
Okay, she's telling you that night, when she's going between composed and emotional, what the heck?
Yes.
Now, shortly after that, does she describe whether or not this bicyclist returns?
Yes, she indicated they continue westbound on Brady, and then they stopped at the light. When they're stopped at the light, the individual pulls up on the passenger side of the car, the windows down. The subject in the bike then says, "Are you talking to me?" Mr. Clearman responds, "Yes." At that time, the subject in the bike punches Mr. Clearman in the face.
Okay, now again, I just want to be very clear. She states that the subject states, "Were you talking to me?"
Yes.
She doesn't say, "Were you talking to me, MFer?"
No.
At no point, at any point, does she describe or state either the bicyclist or her husband was swearing?
No.
Okay.
So, okay. What are you guys making of the importance of the language that Mr. Clearman is saying in terms of one side saying what the heck as opposed to using an expletive versus any kind of racial slur? Why is this so important in the trial, Joseph, in your mind?
Members are there, Bob, and so the only connection that you have is the statements made by the wife, and again, you have to consider her veracity. Does she seem like an honest person on the stand when she's presenting this information? And of course, that night, the statement that she related to the detective, as he is now relating before the court, does this seem valid, and does it seem reasonable that he would use terms like what the heck, as opposed to like you had mentioned, something a bit more ear catching, if you will. I don't know. On balance, you have to really think about how this is being portrayed by prosecution, how they're putting this forth, and do they kind of frame the narrative here to the end that they're trying to accomplish here with the prosecution of this case.
Okay, Joseph, excellent. Okay, well, they're on break, and they're going to come back on the other end, and we're on the edge of our seats in this particular case because the defendant is supposedly going to take the stand, and that obviously is going to be where the main focus of all this is going to go. We're going to be right back, so please stay with us.
What is the internet's favorite razor? Billy. Go to mybilly.com.
George, why are we here today? Are you making a comeback?
I'm announcing I beat expensive home repairs, and you can too with Choice Home Warranty.
What's a home warranty?
It's a service contract that can protect over 25 major home systems and appliances from expensive breakdown caused by normal wear and tear. So when covered items break down, Choice Home Warranty can help repair or replace them, saving you lots of money.
Isn't that what homeowners insurance does?
No, sir. Homeowners insurance doesn't cover things like AC, heating, plumbing, or your kitchen and laundry appliances when they break down, which means you could get stuck with the repair bill.
Don't get stuck with expensive repair bills. Get protection for covered unexpected home appliance or system breakdowns that your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover. Call today for a free quote.
I've had experiences with home warranties in the past, and they don't respond like Choice does.
Choice Home Warranty has saved me so much money. You name it, they can repair it.
They're named the best home warranty company and best claim service by U.S. News 360 Reviews. They've handled over 4 million claims, and they've got my seal of approval, too.
Is Choice Home Warranty expensive?
Not at all. It's less than a cup of coffee a day. You make a claim 24/7 and one of their 15,000 qualified technicians can be on their way.
It's not if your appliance is going to break down, it's only when. You need the security of a home warranty, and for me, it's Choice Home Warranty.
Call Choice Home Warranty now. The call is free, your quote is free, and when you tell them that I sent you, your first month is free.
Beat expensive home repairs like George Foreman by calling Choice Home Warranty before your appliances break down. Call for a free quote today. Call 800-361-6072. That's 800-361-6072. 800-361-6072.
It's time to kick off a new beginning with JustFab. With a huge selection of boots, booties, heels, and more, get your first pair for just $10 when you become a VIP today.
Everything you've seen me do was made possible by what you don't see. Because when you're not looking, I go to work. Strength isn't a given. It's grown. It's earned and tested. We all have the strength to see what's possible. It's up to us to unlock it. Tonal, be your strongest.
Welcome to Law and Crime. Thanks for joining us here on our continued live coverage of the Derek Chauvin trial.
Get in the car.
Mama. The trial of Robert Durst.
I am not trying to figure out anything. The Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
I never wanted to shoot Mr. Rosenbaum.
I didn't want to hurt anybody.
I'm Dan Abrams.
I'm Terry Austin.
I'm Brian Buckmeyer.
I'm Brian Ross.
I'm Jesse Weber.
And you're watching Law and Crime.
Attention. Repeated use of talcum-based products for feminine hygiene has been linked to ovarian cancer. If you or a loved one used talcum-based products such as baby powder and have been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, you may be entitled to significant compensation. Call the Dampier Law Firm today for a free consultation. Their team of co-counsel attorneys represent thousands injured by defective products. Pay nothing unless there's a recovery in your favor. Call the Dampier Law Firm now at 800-279-5481.
I'm Terry Austin, and you're watching Law and Crime.
All right, welcome back to For the Record. My name is Bob Bianchi. They are on break. The Theodore Edgecomb case is turning out to be very, very interesting. Lots of witnesses on the stand today, but the defense case is on. They've called 2 police officers. Again, a little bit of an unusual thing. Did score some points with regard to these police officers, but the big thing that we're waiting for is the defendant to take the stand. As you know, if you're just joining us, this is a road rage case in which Jason Clearman, the victim, was an immigration attorney, was shot in the face by Mr. Edgecomb. Mr. Edgecomb arguing it was self-defense. It had nothing to do with me trying to intentionally kill the person. Of course, the prosecution is a different part of that story, and that's why he is under this prosecution for first-degree intentional homicide. So we'll wait to see if Mr. Edgecomb, in fact, takes the stand and what he has to say. Part of one of the few last witnesses that the state called to the witness stand was a DNA expert. So let's listen to the prosecutor's direct examination with respect to that individual.
In terms of this mixture, were you able to come to a major contributor?
No.
Why not?
So the profile, there wasn't a clear individual that was the major in this case. It was processed assuming, seeing who was included into the mixture in general, looking at both parts of the mixture.
Okay, so you're saying what we're about to talk about is just talking about that this person is part of the mixture. Maybe major, maybe minor, you don't know?
Yes.
Okay. Jason Clearman, was his DNA in part of this mixture?
So when we compared Jason Clearman's standard to this mixture, it was determined that it was at least 917 million times more likely to observe the DNA profile if he was not included in the mixture than if he was included in the mixture, which is a lot of talk to say that there's very strong support that he's excluded from this mixture profile.
Most likely he's not on that DNA, is that correct?
Correct.
But just to be very clear, you're not testifying he's not on there, are you?
Correct, I'm saying there's strong support that he is not.
Okay. Now, what about Theodore Edgecomb?
When we compared Mr. Edgecomb's DNA to this profile, it was determined that it was at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe that DNA profile if Mr. Edgecomb was included than if he was not included. This is equivalent to saying there's very strong support for inclusion of Mr. Edgecomb in the mixture profile.
So it is most likely that Mr. Edgecomb's DNA is on the left handle and brake.
Yes, there's strong support that he's included in that mixture profile.
But you can't testify that he definitely is, can you?
I cannot say that he's the source, no.
Can you even tell us whether or not he's the major or the minor contributor?
No.
Okay, Joseph, Scott Morgan, I just want to go back to you. Nicole, I know I owe you one, but talk to us a little bit about the forensics of this. I think she did a nice job at saying a lot of science speak, but then kind of brought it down to a layman's terms as to what it means. Talk to us about how do you present this kind of evidence? I always find it to be so tricky personally, Joseph, and I kind of rely on people like you to be able to carry that day.
Lord have mercy on you if that's the case. No, I'm just kidding. The fact is this. The fact is this, is that you're talking about numerical data here, and these numbers are absolutely astronomical. Remember in the past, DNA evidence has specific biological markers. Prior to DNA, we relied pretty much either on latent prints or on certainly ABO blood groupings. And now the numbers in comparison to those types, you heard her mentioning terms like in the quadrillions. That's how astronomically larger these are. That's why defense attorneys commonly don't like it. That's why prosecution does like it, because it narrows the scope down. So she's talking about this kind of contact trace that's left behind on these handlebars of this bicycle that the defendant owned. And what this says, I think, by virtue of the absence of any DNA, coming forth from the decedent, that means that more than likely he did not have contact with the handlebars. For instance, in an attempt to control the bike or prevent the defendant from moving along, if you will. So you can't hang the information on that particular scientific nail relative to contacting with the decedent, because that's one of the things that's being alleged, that he was impeding, that he was attempting to get into a fight with this guy, all these sorts of things. So that kind of knocks it out of the water at that point in time.
Interesting. Let's see where the defense goes on cross-examination of this witness.
Fair to say, if an item wasn't submitted for testing, you wouldn't have a DNA result, right?
Correct. If there's nothing for me to test, I have no DNA results from it.
Okay, and just to confirm, in this case number R20-2996, you never received any item for testing such as a knife, correct?
No, I did not.
You also didn't receive an item such as a White Claw can, correct?
No.
As far as the standards we were talking about, and I think you referred to a buccal swab, right?
Correct.
So for Mr. Clearman, was that also a buccal swab standard or some other kind of swab?
So for Mr. Clearman, it was the dried blood standard that I said we typically get from if it was submitted at autopsy or from an autopsy.
And that was item E in your report, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you received that, and then you ran some testing against that standard to see what that matched up with in terms of the items, correct?
So I ran the evidence profiles, and then after looking at those, made the comparison from the standard to the evidence.
Okay. And then at a later point in time, you also received Mr. Edgecomb's buccal swab, right?
Correct.
But you never received Evangelina's DNA profile, correct?
No, I did not.
And when I say that, I mean Evangelina Clearman. You never received any sort of standard from her, right?
Correct. I did not.
Nicole, what do you think the value of this testimony is in terms of why the state put the witness on and why the defense is cross-examining this witness?
I think that the value is fairly limited. Excuse me. I think that said, what they're trying to do is establish that not all of the evidence was collected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and Nicole, I mean, this is like, I'm going back to you again because, as a lawyer and as a former prosecutor, this was, and Joseph, he's been in this world certainly as well. They used to laugh at me saying, gosh, he wants to take the whole house and put it into evidence and have every single thing, you do an evidence review. I want this, I want this, but the labs can only handle so much. But it gives a great opportunity for the defense to say there are certain things that you didn't do that you should have done. So you got to be really careful, Nicole, in your evidence review that you get the most important things over to that lab. No?
I think that's right, because it leaves room, as you can see, for the defense to argue that not all of the evidence was ever collected and considered. And that is why they're saying that there's reasonable doubt, because the state has not met their burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that all of the evidence points in the same direction.
Yeah, Joseph, what do you think about the failure to do that and add that to, I think, the defense you're going to hear in summation, right? We're always thinking about what we want to be saying in summation. They're going to be bringing up the failure to interview witnesses, cutting them off from doing a continued investigation because they already had it and they weren't going to be looking anywhere else. Thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I do. And I can tell you, this is a failure on the part of the investigators at this point. When you're talking about it's a three-legged stool here. When you're talking about the three persons that are directly involved in this, you have the decedent, you have the defendant, then you have the decedent's wife. I think that it's a mistake not having tested for her DNA or having get a baseline, that initial sample from her. And, you have a technician here that's saying this never crossed her desk. She never had an opportunity. And again, the science is solid, Bob. Okay. I mean, and it's really hard to argue with the numbers, but here's the problem. All you have to do in court, and I know I would not presume to preach to you about this, but from my perspective, at least, you just implant some kind of wrongdoing here that you failed in some way. And again, that plants the seed of reasonable doubt. Well, maybe, everything else they've done here is invalid. Maybe, it gives them pause, the jury. And remember, all it takes is just one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great points. I mean, when I prosecuted cases, I was so big. I was asking a jury to do a big thing here. I'm asking them to put somebody in jail for the rest of their lives, and I want to make sure I put it in a box. I used to say, put a bow on it and hand it to them without any problems when they're making that, like the gravity of that kind of decision to the best extent you can. But like we used to say as prosecutors, you dance with the one you brought a lot of times. So unfortunately, there's always going to be some flaws. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here. We're still waiting for them to come back from lunch. We'll have more on the other end. Please stay with us.
It's okay to be curious. Curious about that person you met online. Is this someone I actually want to meet? I've swiped right. What's next? Come to Been Verified to help find love that's real. Been Verified. Be curious.
No one can deliver your mom's homemade short ribs. That's why Instacart helps deliver the ingredients, and you add the love. Visit instacart.com or download the app to get free delivery on your first order.
I love Made In. I love what Made In represents. With the product, you could tell that there's extreme craftsmanship.
You would think a pan is a pan until Made In came along, and I went, wow, these things are something better.
I use Made In both at home and here at Kraft in New York City. They're beautifully made and will help you take your cooking to the next level.
Those are the pans that we use at Alinea. We're going to have the best pans in the world at one of the best restaurants in the world.
Letting go of my diamond ring was really hard, but selling it for the best price was simple with Worthy.com. They evaluate your jewelry to help you understand what it's actually worth. Then they auction it to their network of professional buyers. Get more for your jewelry with Worthy.com.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-890-8461. That's 1-800-890-8461.
We meet many people, interact with different personalities. There are the good ones, and then there are scammers. Millions of people get scammed every year. The emotional and financial hurt is devastating, but you can fight back and defend yourself. Recognize telltale signs and avoid getting sucked into a scammer's web of lies. Grab a copy of Beverly Corbanic's book, Wow, Scammed or Not Scammed, and learn how to protect yourself. Available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and wowscamnotscambook.com.
When you've got a health concern, there's searching the internet and there's science. There's surprise bills and there's knowing what you're gonna pay. There's a lab test on your own schedule from home. There's physician-reviewed results you can understand. Everlywell.
I'm Brian Ross, and you're watching Law and Crime.
But the killing of George Floyd is back in the news again and back in court, in federal court this time. 3 of the officers who were not tried with Derek Chauvin, those are former officers Lane, Tao, and King, are on trial for federal civil rights violations for depriving his liberty without due process of the law. Now, interestingly, Tao and King are also charged with willfully violating its rights to be free from unreasonable seizure. So this is obviously, there's no cameras in court because it's federal court, but we are going to be giving you information while we're there, so to be able to give you an idea of what's going on in this very, very important case. And it's got a lot of interesting, in my opinion, procedural legal issues that are going on. Remember, Derek Chauvin was charged in state court and he was convicted. 3 of the defendants were severed from that case. Now, these 3 defendants are being charged in federal court, even though they have state court charges pending against them too. We're going to get into a little bit of what may be going on in prosecutors' minds with respect to that. But let's take a look first to refresh our recollection of Officer Lane's body footage from that horrific day.
Can you get up on the sidewalk, please? One side or the other, please.
My face getting bad.
Here, so we get his legs up.
Oh,
Or just good?
Sleep him. Yep, sleep him.
All right. Hopefully, Park's still sitting on the car. They were. He was acting very little shady, like Sean was in there. I'm assuming so. He wouldn't get out of the car. He wasn't following instructions. Yeah, it's across the street. Park's watching it.
Please.
2 other people with him.
Please, I can't breathe. Please, man. Please, somebody help me.
You can probably step it up then. You got it?
Please, man, somebody help me. Relax. I can't breathe.
You're talking.
You're talking fine.
Deep breath.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. My body just died this day. Relax. Man, I can't breathe my face. Just get up.
He's got to be on something.
What do you want? I can't breathe. Please, the knee in my neck. I can't breathe shit. Get up, get in the car, man. I will move.
That is.
Mama.
You found a weed pipe on him. There might be something else with it. Might be like PCP or something. Is that the shaking of the eyes, right? Is PCP?
My knee, my neck.
Where their eyes like shake back and forth really fast.
I'm through. I got the pooping. My stomach hurts. My neck hurts. Everything hurts. There's water or something. Please.
Oof.
Please.
Sweet.
I can't breathe, officer.
Don't talking. A lot of
yelling. They will kill me. They will kill me, man.
Takes a heck of a lot of oxygen.
Nicole, always chilling, video to watch, no matter how many times we've seen it before. 9.5 minutes that Chauvin's on his neck and for a number of minutes where there's literally no body movement. That body footage was from former officer Lane, who was holding George Floyd's legs down. But as I recall this case, it was also Lane that may have on at least one or maybe two occasions asked whether they should sit him up or whether they should stop, applying the pressure, something to that effect. Does this explain why it may be that he's not charged as Tao and King are with regard to the other offense in this federal court case?
I think that's exactly why he's not charged. I think that there are a number of factors when you look at and by the way, I mean, that video just gets harder to watch instead of easier to watch, I think. It's just absolutely horrific. And that's going to be, for all of these defendants, the absolute biggest problem. That said, each of these perspectives, if you will, the different body camera angles, provide an insight into what was happening from where each of these charged officers stood, sat, observed, and I think that is why this particular officer was not charged, because he did try to intervene and make suggestions about intervening.
Joseph, I mean, these are different charges, obviously, than state charges. They're federal court charges. There's different proofs that they have to prove here. How difficult a case do you think it is against these three former police officers versus the case they had against Derek Chauvin?
Well, it's going to go to the federal prosecutor being able to prove that they did, in fact, deprive him of his civil rights, his civil liberties at this point. With the state, because there is really no federal homicide, statute, as you all know. It's a bit more complex than that on the federal side. But with the state, we have all of these issues. Remember, famously, we listened to testimony of the pulmonologist, and they're talking about the physiology behind what was going on with Mr. Floyd at that particular time. We heard from actually three forensic pathologists in this particular case. And this had more to do with the mechanism of Chauvin and his interaction with Mr. Floyd. This is going to be absent at the federal level, I think. So it'll be interesting to see how exactly they make this stick at a federal level. It's completely different, though. The evidence presentation is going to be completely different. However, I do agree with Nicole about this videography. This will be played in federal court, I would imagine, and they will hear this and they will see this, and they'll be making a determination based upon this as it applies to Mr. Floyd's civil rights.
Nicole, interested in your point of view on this. Now, no matter how people may call it controversial or not, I'm just looking at it as a lawyer, and I always look at it from the lens of if I had to prosecute this case. And with respect to the four defendants, I'm sorry to say, but it's just a fact. It's clear Derek Chauvin is going to bear the responsibility and has in fact been convicted and pled guilty to the federal court charges with regard to this. But defense lawyers have, in my opinion, a little bit more of an opening with regard to the other three defendants. Tao is doing crowd control, quote unquote, and you got King and you got Lane just holding his feet down, and they're kind of new and novel officers, and even Lane is saying, let's pick them up. It's a different qualitative emotional response to the jury because a lot depends on what they were observing and whether they knew or should have known that these violations could occur. Do you think there is a strategic reason as to why they've decided to try this case in federal court now rather than in state court like they did with Chauvin?
I think there is a strategic reason. I think that the law is different in federal court, and it puts the responsibility for their actions in a different light, right? So essentially what the law says in federal court is that it's a civil rights violation, even if you have inaction or because you did not follow policy, essentially. You could be looking at a civil rights violation. And in this instance, the civil rights violation resulted in a death. And so in some ways, this can be an easier case to prove from a federal standpoint.
Yeah, Nicole, I mean, just to bounce back with you on that, because I think this is really, really important. There are many cases where they don't get the murder conviction in state court because the standards can be much more difficult because you have to prove a lot of times intent or purpose or knowledge or those things. Yet they do get a conviction for civil rights violations in federal court. I think you're onto something as to why they chose this venue first. But if they were to be convicted here, what do you anticipate happens with regard to the state court charges? Is it make it easier for resolution?
It should, in the sense that if they are convicted, they will be serving substantial amounts of time based on the federal sentencing guidelines in federal court. And that will make it unnecessary to prosecute them in state court unless they just want to do that in order to send a message. But they're not likely to get more time than they would have gotten on these same sets of facts in federal court.
Yeah, Joseph, just real quick, I want to go back to something that you mentioned before when you talked about all the experts the state called in the Chauvin case, the pulmonologist in particular. Some of the most dramatic testimony I've seen as a former homicide prosecutor, when he was just a great witness. He said, he's alive, and now not, or something very close. He literally pinpointed the moment George Floyd died, and that knee still on the neck. I got about 30 seconds. What do you think, Joseph?
Yeah, I think that it was rather dramatic. And on the other hand, I have to say that the defense did a horrible job bringing anybody in to mitigate that testimony. I had a major problem with that at the time, and I still say it full-throatedly right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That was very interesting as well. Okay, guys, I really appreciate it. Nicole, I know you've got to go. Thank you so much for your time. We'll be back on the other end. Edgecomb, hopefully coming back soon. We'll be right back.
Without personal capital, there's absolutely no way we would have had the financial confidence to live the life that we're living. Both the tools and our personal capital advisor give us the comfort to not have anxiety about our retirement.
I never imagined this dream would come true. Working with our advisor at Personal Capital, we were able to make that leap.
Take control of your retirement. Download our free tools, then talk to an advisor. Start today at personalcapital.com.
With medication, coaching, and lifestyle tweaks, Calibrate is changing the way the world treats weight.
I've always been prone to hair thinning.
I was under a lot of stress.
I was getting older.
I started taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement.
I am back to me.
Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. Not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount, and that's how easy it is. And I did this to my father. We were at home. 4 minutes, 34 seconds, completely gone.
My real true opinion is holy words I can't say on camera. This is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I could feel it just lifting my skin. It was amazing. It feels good. Feels great. Looks even better.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work for yourself after your first application. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
My finances are very out of control.
Having a family and the finances, it's a tough balancing act.
You're sitting here at the end of the month looking at all the bills thinking there's got to be a better way.
Introducing the Netspend Prepaid Mastercard. There's no credit check and no cost to order.
I dedicate my life to helping people achieve their potential and discover the tools to make that happen. That's why I'm excited to tell you about the Netspend Prepaid Mastercard. This, my friends, is more than just a card. Use it anywhere debit MasterCard is accepted. You can use it to shop online, pay bills, buy gas. And get this, with Netspend and direct deposit, you could get paid up to 2 days earlier. Just think about how much that could help.
My coworkers are always like, how do you have your check already? I'm like, that's because I use Netspend.
Even better, you can earn cashback rewards on many of your purchases.
That money goes right back into my account, and I love it.
With Netspend and direct deposit, your paycheck or benefits check loads into your card account. No more standing in check cashing lines or running to the bank or waiting by the mailbox. Each time you make a purchase, you get a text that shows the amount and your new balance. Netspend's mobile app is so convenient and puts your money at your fingertips wherever you are. You can even send or receive money from friends and family right through the app.
With the app, it's very easy to transfer money to family and friends.
There's a $10 purchase cushion in case you come up a little short. With your Netspend card, you got this.
I got this. I got this.
With Netspend, I got this.
Call now. There's no cost to order and no credit check to start. With Netspend, you pay no interest fees, late fees, or activation fees because this is not a credit card. Don't miss out.
Order now. Be one of the first 200 callers and choose your card color. 1-800-614-9049. That's 1-800-614-9049. Get paid up to 2 days faster with Netspend.
I'm Dan Abrams, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Welcome back to Law and Crimes for the Record. My name is Bob Bianchi. I'll be taking it for another hour. We are doing the Edgecomb case, waiting for the jury to come back from lunch. The defense is putting a defense on so far 2 police officers, and it is expected the defendant may take the stand. I really can't wait to see that. Mr. Edgecomb is accused of killing first-degree intentional homicide Jason Clearman in a motor vehicle road rage incident, if you will. The defendant is claiming no, it's self-defense. Sadly, as is the case in homicide cases many times, a family member was present, that being his wife, who was in the vehicle when the altercation occurred. We listened to Jason Clearman's wife last week. Let's take a little bit of a listen to her very, very powerful testimony.
40 minutes and 59 seconds into that same recording. So I can go back a little bit. 40 minutes and 53 seconds into that same recording.
Just fine. Other people called, yeah?
I couldn't move my fingers. Pausing at 41 minutes and 20 seconds. You're talking to the officer about how you couldn't call, but you knew other people were calling, right? I want to come back to one portion of what we had talked about. You have told us that your memory is that your husband said, "What the heck?" Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to play for you from 28 minutes and 41 seconds into this recording. In there, you're talking to Jason's sister, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you said that Jason said to this bicyclist that he was a fucking asshole as you guys had to drive around.
What I remember Jason saying was, "What the heck?"
Here we have you saying fucking asshole, right? That he said fucking asshole. At least that's what we hear you on the phone say, correct?
That is what you hear me saying, correct?
Yeah. And that when you told us that when the bicyclist came up, he said, "Were you talking to me?" When you're telling it to Jason's sister, you say the bicyclist said, "Were you talking to me, motherfucker?"
I recall him saying, "Were you talking to me?" That's all I remember. I think those are my words. I believe those are my words to Vanessa because when I called her, she didn't believe me. She didn't believe me.
Understood, but as we can hear, you stated Jason, and when you're talking on the phone and also talking to officers, you said Jason used a swear word that you don't remember today, and you also say the bicyclist used a swear word that you don't remember today, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then Jason said, you made me bleed, you motherfucker.
I don't recall him saying that to him. He didn't say any other words to the bicyclist.
Okay, but we hear you say that at least during the phone conversation, correct?
Yes.
All right, joining myself and Joseph Scott Morgan is Joseph Richardson. Joe, how important is this testimony for the defense, do you think, about what words were said or not said? Are they going to believe her that what she was saying to the sister using those curse words we just heard was just her kind of making that up, Jason's sister, that this was serious, as opposed to what she's testifying to now, what was said, which does not have those kind of aggressive curse words?
I think it could be important for a couple of reasons. Either she comes off as not credible at all, willingly so, not credible. In other words, she has this selective memory that tends to disremember or not remember the things that lend toward aggression and that make her husband look worse. Or B, you know what? She's traumatized. Of course she wouldn't remember everything. So let's just disregard what she's saying and go around it, and not let her words be the last impression or our greatest indication of what the husband actually said. We're going to have to get that from some other place, and maybe that lends to reasonable doubt. So, either way, I mean, I think that it's important that even though it's understandable that she would forget some things, and the prosecution was taking her through that, on the other hand, she does tend to forget some things that you wouldn't think somebody would forget in that circumstance, or ironically, the things that tend to make her husband look worse in the instance, as if he has a reason for and wants to go after this guy, like there's aggression, like there's anger, and those types of things.
Joseph, let's follow up on what Joe just said right there, because I think there's a lot to that. Let's add that to the fact that we're hearing from witnesses today that the defense is calling that a police officer wanted to interview another person that was a witness there, and we're basically shut down and told, no, you don't need to do that. We've got enough. There's certain various items and evidence that they are alleging should have been analyzed that weren't analyzed. Does the defense try to weave in their summation that we've got enough? They were judge, jury, and executioner right at that point in time, and they're missing these details. And now the wife is even kind of like to Joe's point, kind of like trying to shine up that penny, if you will. And you can be assured that you're not hearing everything in this case that you should. Is that enough to make one juror queasy?
Yeah, of course it is. They can intimate that as much as they want. Remember, the burden of proof is on the prosecution, and at this point, they can say that all of these things were left out. It goes back to the DNA piece that we mentioned just a moment ago, relative to not having the buccal mucosal swab for comparison from the wife, per the DNA analyst. That again is part of this idea, this narrative that they're building, that this is a flawed case, and that you can plant that seed of reasonable doubt. The trick, though, obviously, is it going to take root at the end of the day when they're back there in that little room debating all of these issues? And again, this is a case that has been potentially made a bit more complex than it needed to have been. Again, that's for somebody else to determine. But all the defense has to do is plant that seed. The question is, and I think one of the interesting issues here is the dynamic between the defense and the judge. Though we'll see how that plays out as well.
Yeah, and another interesting thing about this, and people have been commenting, is her explanation as to why it was that she called her sister-in-law as opposed to dialing 911. Let's take a little bit of a listen to the cross-examination of her on that particular area.
Okay, a couple last things. Now, you spoke before about a red SUV coming up when you approached Mr. Clemens' body at the time, correct? It was an SUV with two people, is what you just said was standing at the scene, correct?
There was a red truck behind my car and two people had stepped out of the vehicle.
Okay, and you requested the lady to call 911, correct?
I shouted out in their direction, please call 911.
Okay. Now, is it true that you were already on the phone with someone at the time that you requested that individual to call 911?
I don't recall being on the phone.
Okay. Was someone named Ivana?
Ivana. I called her after I couldn't call 911.
Okay. All right, and you testified before that you didn't call 911 because you didn't remember a 6-digit code, correct?
I was trembling and I couldn't get my fingers to, I remember the code, I just couldn't do it.
Okay. But you were able to put the code in to call Ivana, correct?
Afterwards, yes.
Okay.
I was able to just calm down a little bit and then was able to call her.
And what kind of phone did you have, Miss Clearman?
It was an iPhone.
Okay. And are you aware of a feature on an iPhone that you don't have to put a code in order to make an emergency call?
No. I mean, I know that there's that feature, but I never, my reaction was just to do the code.
Joe, what do you think about this thing where she's not calling 911? Is it making sense to you? The defense making any point on that? Or can you explain that? Is this a big issue or is it just a red herring?
It could be everything or it could be nothing. I think that it lends to, on that issue itself, maybe it's not a big thing, but can you believe this witness is what it comes down to. Is she busy defending her husband's honor such that you just have to go around whatever it is that she's saying? And in a way, it has the potential to sow a seed. But at the same time, again, I'd say that it is understandable that she wouldn't necessarily be with herself given what she just witnessed and what just happened. But the jury's going to ask themselves, would I do everything that's out of sorts that she did? Would I not call 911? Would I, tell myself I wanted his wallet? Would I do this or that, the other? Would I forget certain things that were said, where it was clear that I said something else or that my husband was a bit more aggressive or whatever else? And if a jury can relate and connect to that and they believe her, then, they'll give her some slack on that. If not, maybe it says we know more about what the husband did or didn't do by what she didn't say as opposed to what she did. And therefore that sows a seed of reasonable doubt.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, we got about 15 or 20 minutes until that jury comes back from its lunch break, and we are anticipating the defendant taking the stand. And hopefully I'll be on air when that happens because I think it's going to be fascinating. So we're going to take that quick break and we'll be right back. Please stay with us.
So.
Have you ever wanted to learn a new language like French, Spanish, or Russian, but thought it would be too difficult and time-consuming? Then go to Babbel.com and try it for free. Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you will actually use. In 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. Babbel uses a modern conversation-based technique that makes language engaging, fun, and memorable. It starts by teaching you words and phrases. Then, sentences gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations about real-life topics. Babbel is created by language experts who use the spaced repetition method to help you learn quickly and remember what you learned. With Babbel, you can speak a new language because language isn't just about learning new words. It's about learning a culture, a mindset, and a new point of view. Babbel, language for life. Go to Babbel.com and try it for free today.
It's okay to be curious. Curious about that unknown number. Who was that calling? Who keeps texting? What if it's actually important or an old friend trying to get in touch? For the next unknown number, use Been Verified. Be curious.
The new year is here. Time for a wardrobe refresh. JustFab's VIP membership offers fashion must-haves to refresh your look. Sign up and grab your first pair of great shoes for just $10 on JustFab.com.
What does the future of strength look like? It's a personal trainer that assesses your strength and adds weight as you progress. It's dynamic weight that adjusts for you in real time for a more efficient workout.
Come on.
And it's a roster of coaches that motivates you to get stronger, faster. The future is strength you can feel and results you can see. And you can only experience it on Tonal.
Letting go of my diamond ring was really hard, but selling it for the best price was simple with Worthy.com. They evaluate your jewelry to help you understand what it's actually worth. Then they auction it to their network of professional buyers. Get more for your jewelry with Worthy.com.
Attention, this is a medical alert. The toxic exposure zone in the aftermath of 9/11 included all of Lower Manhattan below Canal Street. If you worked, lived, or went to school there between 9/11 and May 2002 and have been diagnosed with a lung disease or any cancer, you may be entitled to money from the Federal Victim Compensation Fund that covers more than 70 types of cancer and lung diseases. To see if you're eligible, call Isbrook Marsh Law now. 800-828-1000. The fund has deadlines. No fees unless we recover for you. 800-828-1000.
Do you have a piano or a keyboard, but you're not quite sure how to play it? Then download the Simply Piano app, the best way to learn piano from the comfort of your home. Simply Piano works with any piano or keyboard. Just put the app on your instrument and start playing. Download Simply Piano today.
I'm Sean Sticks Larkin, and you're watching Law and Crime.
As we're waiting for the Edgecomb trial to resume, we go over some really, really important testimony. So the defense is now on. They've called two police officers. One of them was a Patrick Tivnan, who had body cam footage that they played actually in court. A lot of interesting information came out during this that could have assisted the defense in this theory that we're talking about, little building blocks about how they rushed the judgment. So let's listen to a little bit of the direct examination with respect to that body cam footage.
You've been standing over there for a while now. Tony? I'm standing with this gentleman, Mr. Perez, as a witness, but across the way, there's a gentleman standing there. He's been standing there for a while. I'd like to go up and ask him if he saw any of this, because he's been there for a while. Okay, try to make it quick. They keep trying to see. Did you all right? Yeah. All right.
Okay, can you stop right there? Maybe great. So at this point, Officer Tivnan, you identified a third individual that could potentially have information relevant to this case, correct?
I did not identify him.
Well, you saw a man that's standing over there, and you stated that he's standing there for a while, and you would like to go talk to him, correct?
Correct.
Okay, continue.
Playing at 43-13. We'll wait here.
Hey, I'm assuming once they're done with this gentleman, they'll come talk to you, okay? That's cool. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, Rick. Gentleman over here's been standing there for a while. Maybe I should ask him. Hey, did you see anything?
No, fuck that.
No, all right.
We got the caller, we got this gentleman, we got his wife.
Okay.
We got actually people that were.
Can you stop right there?
All right.
I don't know what he said, but
Okay, so Officer Tivnan, you then go to Officer Metallic. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you asked him for permission to go talk to another gentleman that was standing over there with potential information to this case, correct?
I wouldn't call it permission. Just put it in discussion, the possibility of talking to another person who was on the perimeter of the scene.
Okay, discussion. And part of that discussion, Officer Mahalik then says, fuck that, we got enough, correct?
Correct.
And he further says, we have the wife, correct?
Correct.
He says, we have someone that called 911, correct?
Correct.
And he says, we have this gentleman, correct?
Correct.
And because Officer Mahalik, was that the determining factor as to why you didn't pursue this third individual who was standing there who you identified?
No.
What was the reason why you didn't go provide information to seek the information that this third individual could potentially have after Officer Mahalik says, fuck that, we got enough?
When I arrived on scene, then Sergeant, now Lieutenant Tim Garkey told me to do scene security, which is typically a standalone task. I was doing that, and as seen in the video, Sergeant Diana Barkas with the red hair came and told me to start interviewing people. That was fruitful and a good idea on her part, but at the time, I found that challenging because scene security and canvassing witnesses is typically two separate tasks. Once Mr. Perez had been identified as a very, what appeared to be an important witness, I had a new task to continue scene security, as then Sergeant Garkey told me to do. as well as standing with Mr. Perez to make sure that he didn't speak to any other witnesses and wasn't contaminated in a sense prior to passing him off to a CIB detective. So I had 2 tasks, and the idea of taking on a 3rd task not seem possible to do 3 tasks well, correctly. So I returned my attention to the primary responsibility of scene security, as well as preserving and staying with Mr. Perez as a witness.
Joseph Scott Morgan, based upon your extensive crime scene background, including being on the scenes, not just talking about it as a professor, really having done the job. I mean, what do you think about this idea that a police officer is saying there's another person they want to speak to, and because they've got multiple tasks, is one reason he gives us an explanation he doesn't do it, but more devastating to the prosecution's cases, F that, we have enough. We've got the wife, who they're trying to say has a bias. We have a 911 caller. How relevant that's going to be is to a self-defense claim, we don't know, and another person. It's just not a good look. Joseph, what do you think?
No, it's not. And the comment, the F that comment, gives you an indication of lack of awareness on that individual's part. You have to be aware that you're being recorded and everything you said is going down. Now, that's in the record. Now, to the officer's point that was on the stand, he's right, he is. And talking about performing scene security, he cannot multitask in that position. Scene security, as we know, is key to everything, because if you're not fully aware of what factors there are surrounding the periphery of the scene outside the tape, individuals that may try to enter in, loss of evidence, all those sorts of things, and your attention is drawn to something else, and that's a problem. Now, I've been out on cases where, the guys that are pulling scene security on the perimeter, they'll identify somebody and they'll direct to, he said CIB, CID. They might have information you might want to ask them, but he should not be tasked with that job to go and interview anybody or anything like that. This is a very specific job that has been identified. It's recognized in court as being integral to successful processing of crime scenes. And not only crime scenes, but this is a death scene, Bob.
Yeah. Well, it's crime scene management, and there should be incident command that's there. That's
it is. But my point is that this is going to be so laser focused that everybody needs to get their head screwed on straight here. It goes back to this idea of this guy talking on an open mic and saying F this. It's like they're not focused on their job at hand at this point. And it doesn't seem as though on one level they're necessarily taking this as seriously as it should be taken.
Okay, so that is, let's keep in mind here, this is a police officer being called by the defense in the case. So obviously the prosecutor is going to have an opportunity at cross-examination, which they did with this witness. Let's take a listen.
Defense counsel was stating about this 3rd person that you said, I see him standing there for a long time, right? Is that,
yes.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he ever wave you down?
No.
Did he ever make eye contact with you and indicate he wanted to talk to you?
No.
Did he ever glance at you and make it seem like he wanted to talk to you?
No.
Did you have any indication whatsoever from him that he had any information?
No.
He was there.
Correct.
When you do crime scenes, do people sometimes stand and gawk?
Yes.
Do you talk to every single person you see outside the tape?
No.
Okay. Additionally, officer, the 2nd person, he was very aggressive about trying to wave you down. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Perez came and identified himself as someone that had information.
I don't recall that he identified himself to me, so I can't say exactly the initial when the MPD came in contact.
Sorry, I apologize. But to somebody, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the 2 people you talked to were people that stated we had information.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you go speak to this 2nd guy, the guy who, just to be clear, he's talking about overhearing 2 African-American gentlemen in a car talking about someone geeking, right?
Yes.
And then popping them.
Yes.
He thought that maybe these 2 guys in an alley maybe did something to someone who was geeking.
That's what it seemed like, yes.
Doesn't seem at all like it's describing the incident that you have heard from Mr. Perez and other witnesses.
Correct.
Okay. Now, when you go speak to that guy, You actually go over by where this other guy's just sitting there standing, don't you?
Yeah, I think I would describe it as splitting the distance as well as continuing to look at Mr. Perez.
Okay. So you've got to both keep your eye on Mr. Perez, correct?
Yes.
Make sure no witnesses talk to him.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, when you're talking to Mr. Perez, you told this other guy, like, you got to back off. I can't have you contaminating witnesses, right?
Correct.
So you making sure no one crosses the line, keeping your eye on Mr. Perez, going speaking to Mr. Irrelevant, right?
Correct.
Does the third guy at any point ever do anything other than just stare at what's going on at the crime scene?
No.
Does he ever look at you?
No.
Does he ever say he's got any information?
No.
So if anybody's describing him as a witness, they're just guessing.
Correct.
Okay.
Joe, give me your quarterbacking of this witness called by the defense with respect to F that, we have enough, and whether the prosecutor rehabilitated that. I mean, he crossed them, but we know they want to rehabilitate him.
I think that whatever a jury's inclination is ahead of time could probably be supported by something that was presented. Therefore, if you don't think it was that big of a deal that they saw somebody that might be gawking at the crime scene and that they didn't reach out to ask him what was what, then, okay, it's not going to be a big deal. Nothing to see here. If, on the other hand, you thought that because of the circumstance, they needed to get as much information as they possibly could, and that it was important that it seemed to be that officer's instinct to at least ask the question, which is why he said it out loud, then you may tax them for it. By that, I mean, you may say you didn't find out everything that you could have. Maybe this thing was predetermined. Between that and the comment, you wouldn't be any worse off if you were searching for truth and trying to do justice and, those types of things. So, it's gonna lend to whatever inclination a jury member may have anyway.
I think, Joe, that you just did a great job. And if they haven't done it already, they should get the outline of what you just said, because I expect that we're either going to hear from summation or after they listen to what you just said, that's going to become their summation and the theme of the case. All right, guys, thanks very much. We're going to take a quick break, and we're expecting the jury to come back any second now. Please stay with us.
What is the internet's favorite razor?
I'm obsessed with Billy.
Billy. The internet has spoken. Go to mybilly.com.
With Bonfire, you can easily fundraise by selling custom shirts online, upload your artwork, or create a design right on our website. In these unique times, you can still make a difference. Fundraise with custom shirts today on bonfire.com.
With science-backed Calibrate, Vicky's weight loss is sustainable, ending years of unsustainable yo-yo diets. Medication, coaching, lifestyle tweaks. Lose at least 10% of your body weight or your money back. Join Calibrate.com.
No one can deliver your mom's homemade short ribs. That's why Instacart helps deliver the ingredients, and you add the love. Visit instacart.com or download the app to get free delivery on your first order.
Grab her by the legs and pull her to the water. That's the only one that I ever killed by drowning.
This is prime crime.
Had you discussed alternative methods of killing your mother?
Yes. We take you inside the most fascinating cases that the nation is talking about.
I don't understand.
Real footage from interrogation tapes to body cam video, we dig deep.
From the makers of top-selling Super Beets comes new Super Beets Heart Chews, a superfood breakthrough that's bursting with flavor and unique polyphenols that help support healthy blood pressure and circulation so your body can produce more heart-healthy energy.
The chews are so great. Super Beats gets me going. It gets my circulation flowing, and I have that energy all through the day. It's just fantastic. I love it.
When I researched Super Beats, I was impressed by all the science behind the Super Beats chews. It's amazing that something so simple can be this great for my heart.
What makes Super Beats polyphenol so different from other antioxidants? In a leading clinical study, Super Beats polyphenol compound was shown nearly 2 times as effective at promoting normal blood pressure as a healthy lifestyle alone.
In my 31 years of helping people maintain healthy blood pressure, I've never seen a polyphenol compound this effective. Super Beats antioxidants help support healthy blood pressure and help your body produce more energy.
I never knew how my blood pressure and my blood flow were so connected to my energy level, and now I know. I'm playing tennis longer, I don't get tired after one set. I can totally feel the difference.
Call now and find out how you can get a free 30-day supply of Super Beats Heart Chews, plus a free bonus pack of delicious vitamin D3 chews for immune health support. Act now, and we'll even include free shipping and free returns, all backed by our 90-day money-back guarantee. That's over $30 in total free gifts. So try Super Beats Chews today.
I love the chews because they're delicious and they're so convenient.
I absolutely love what they do for my energy. My blood pressure is healthy, and my energy level has been phenomenal.
So do something good for your blood pressure and your energy. Love your results or your money back.
Call 1-800-394-0557 or visit superbeatschews.com. That's 1-800-394-0557. Call today.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading? Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud. Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 500,000 satisfied customers. Visit legacybox.com today.
I'm Brian Ross, and you're watching Law and Crime.
Did you love your husband?
I loved my husband. I still love my husband. Our love was so great.
All right, there you go. There's the victim's wife testifying on the stand, giving obviously very compelling testimony, having witnessed this situation. So in the Edgecomb case, we are waiting for the jury to come back. You know, it's a self-defense case. The defense now has 2 witnesses that they put on, have been 2 police officers, interestingly enough. And the defendant is expected to take the stand to say that this was self-defense. And in that vein, we've been talking about this pocket knife that Jason Clearman, the immigration attorney who was shot and killed, was carrying on the day of this incident. So let's listen to the wife testifying about this pocket knife that the victim had.
Ma'am, this was a traumatic experience for you, right?
It's very traumatic.
Are there certain things you'll never forget and other things that may be a little harder for you to remember?
Yes.
Now, your husband got out of that car to go to confront that bicyclist that had just punched him, right?
He wanted to talk to him.
Maybe if it was a confrontation by words or whatever, but he got out and he approached this man that had just punched him, right?
He walked up to him.
Did your husband have any weapons in his hand?
No.
Now, I want to talk about this knife. Do you know the knife we're talking about? I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 33. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
Whose knife is that?
That's Jason's knife.
Okay. And would he use it at work?
Yes, it was a tool that he used. He used it to open up our boxes at work, our deliveries, paper boxes. He used it around the yard. He would cut. Sometimes he'd come home, and if there were flowers in bloom, he would cut them with his knife and bring the flowers into me.
Did Jason ever take that knife out?
No.
the moment when this bicyclist punched your husband, did you know he had a gun?
No.
When Jason gets out, the victim gets out to go talk to him, confront him, whatever, did he have the gun out? The bicyclist, did he have this gun out?
What I remember is when Jason was walking towards him, he was looking at me in the eye, and then he pulled out the gun.
Your husband, did he ever threaten to kill anybody?
Never. My husband was not a violent man. My husband was a man of conflict resolution.
Did you hear him threaten to kill anybody?
No.
Joseph Scott Morgan, I mean, this knife has been, an issue. I think we can kind of anticipate what we're going to be hearing the defendant say if he takes the stand. She made an interesting comment to me, and again, it's all about what we can say in summation, that they were looking eye to eye, which I would be arguing down the road for the defense if I were making that argument, or as a prosecutor, I'd be anticipating the argument. Well, you weren't looking at his hands at that point in time, and that knife came out. And the gun wasn't out in the beginning, but it came out because the defendant was worried about the pocket knife that came out. I mean, clearly that's where they're probably going. Am I making that up, or do you suspect that's going to happen?
No, it'll probably go that way, particularly if the defendant is going to take the stand. I think, and it's a multi-step process relative to this pocket knife. This is not like a hunting knife that would have been sheathed, where you just essentially draw it. The question is, first off, did he actually have it in his hand? And secondly, you would have to remove the knife from your pocket, demonstrate the knife, then look down at the knife and deploy the knife, because it's a pocket knife, so it's going to have to swing open. So there's multiple steps here. Then the defendant will have to have recognized that there was a threat at hand. And so if he chooses to get up on the stand, prosecution is going to be able to take him down this road and ask him those questions specifically.
Joe, I would imagine that he would be prepared to answer those questions if he's been speaking to his lawyer. But how does this knife fit into the narrative of the wife maybe wanting to get on the stand, to Joseph Scott Morgan's point, and honor the memory of her husband? You'd have to believe that he got punched in the face, just came out calmly and just walked to the individual to have a little bit of a discussion. I mean, it may belie a little common sense whether or not there were curse words being used or not curse words being used. That this knife is going to come into play, in my mind, in his testimony. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely going to come into play. And what the defense is going to try to do, if they, assuming that they are going to put the defendant on the stand, is show that he was in reasonable fear for his life. This guy pulled something out. He said expletives. He was chasing after him. Once he became, it'll be interesting to see when he became aware of him, if he's riding his bike. Is he saying he's looking back while he's riding his bike? Those types of things. Timing is going to be important. And so it's going to be really important how it's presented so that he's not tripped up on cross. But I absolutely believe that the knife is going to come in, and it's going to get talked about. And so, the wife was going to, they were going to try to introduce it the best way that they could so that it doesn't come from the defense side. We acknowledge he's got a knife, that he uses it, but he doesn't, he didn't have it there. There's no evidence that he had it there. And somehow the defendant is not believable in that regard. That's what they're going to be hoping for.
Okay, well, the knife, that's not the first witness that discussed the knife. Also, Sergeant Tyler Kirkvold was asked questions about this knife as well. Let's take a listen.
Under any circumstance, no one should ever take an item from a crime scene, correct?
That's not correct.
Okay, give me a circumstance where it's okay for an individual who's a citizen to take an item away from a crime scene.
As a citizen, no.
Okay.
It's not acceptable.
And Ms. Clearman was a citizen, correct?
Correct.
Now, you've also learned that there was a knife in Mr. Clearman's pocket, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't know who all touched that knife, correct?
I know that it was found in his pocket and it was removed by the medical examiner.
Okay. You don't know who all touched that knife on September 22nd, 2020, do you?
only from my point being there and the medical examiner removing it, I don't know if anybody else went in his pocket prior to that.
So it's possible that somebody else other than Jason Clearman could have also touched that knife, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, there was no DNA taken of that knife, correct?
I don't know that.
Okay, so Joe, what are you making of this cross-examination and with respect to the manner in which this knife was handled?
I mean, there's no good reason. Joseph has talked in extensive detail, and it's really fascinating about how powerful DNA is. DNA is a showstopper, man. DNA is going to let you know who touched what, and the probability is absolutely overwhelming, and it is compelling. And so there's no good reason why, in a case where there's a question of self-defense, where a knife that is on the person of the ultimate victim is not examined. If not for any other reason, just to eliminate it as a potential factor. There's no good reason for that. And a jury that is looking at these things and looking at this situation may say that's your reasonable doubt right there. How do they not do that in a thorough investigation? So potentially that could be a problem for sure.
Joseph, I'm being advised, and I didn't see this testimony, producers indicated to me that this knife was eventually given to the medical examiner. What, in your experience as a crime scene investigator, especially in the forensic world, is the appropriate protocol as to what to do with a knife in a scene like this?
It's on his person. It is therefore the property of the medical examiner at that point in time. It falls under their umbrella of responsibility, just like a wallet, a set of car keys. Contrary to what you see on television, you don't go digging around the person's pocket. You want to make sure that that's controlled. So my question would be, were they searching through this individual's pockets at the scene, the deceased, and pulling things out? You just cannot randomly decide what you're going to turn over to the ME. There has to be a real uniformity here. So just imagine, if you will, if you just keep the body intact at the scene, okay? And then the body is appropriately packaged, if you will, wrapped in a clean white sheet, placed into a bag. Bag is sealed and locked, okay? Taken back to the morgue, and then in a controlled circumstance, you begin to take things out of the pocket. Generally, the police are there. And in this controlled environment, you can hand it over to them then. But the fact that they would handle this thing at the scene and it would pass through numerous hands, that violates just about every standard that we have for continuity of evidence. And if you're talking about not just DNA, but touch DNA, which is even more fragile than, say, a blood droplet or something, it's more fragile than a wisp of talcum powder, okay, because it's dead skin cells. That's key here. So this goes to integrity of the scene, integrity of the investigation. So I don't know what they're talking about, but I don't like the way it sounds.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to take a break, and it gives me an opportunity to go to the dictionary and look up exactly what the definition of WISP is. I have a general idea. Joseph Scott Morgan's WISP factor. And on the other end, I'm told don't go anywhere because we're told we're going to be live back in the Edgecomb trial.
Every plate delivery?
Welcome. I was just finishing up little Tammy here.
We've saved so much time and money cooking with Every Plate that I can finally restore my rare Victorian doll collection.
They're beautiful.
And they love Every Plate, don't you, Tammy?
Get your first box for $1.79 a meal using offer code TV179.
A band of brothers, finally reunited after 30 long years. Use Been Verified to search for the people you miss. You might just find what you've been missing all along. Been Verified, know better.
Letting go of my diamond ring was really hard, but selling it for the best price was simple with Worthy.com. They evaluate your jewelry to help you understand what it's actually worth. Then they auction it to their network of professional buyers. Get more for your jewelry with Worthy.com.
Finding the perfect bra can be impossible. Pinching and tight here, sagging and loose there. It's so uncomfortable to wear. And back fat from your straps? Who needs that? Hi, I'm Taylor Baldwin, and you're gonna love this. It's the Comfy Corset Bra. Comfy as a cami, but sexy as a corset. Finally, a bra that does it all. The secret is the revolutionary front crossband design. Just pull across to adjust the bands over and under. Comfy Corset complements your curves under any outfit, lifts in all the right places, supports you all day long, and with no underwire, tags, or seams, it feels like you're wearing nothing at all. It's the perfect combination of a figure-flattering push-up bra and a super comfortable bralette. You can customize the fit to your breast shape and size, even if that's different from right to left. Just look at the difference. And ladies, you can say goodbye to embarrassing back fat because Comfy Corset beautifully takes care of that. You can even customize Comfy Corset to your outfit. Adjust here for a sporty fit under a t-shirt or blouse, or here for a sexy look in that little black dress. Comfy Corset Bra doesn't constrict or squeeze, but still enhances your cleavage. Beautiful lace trim adds that sexy secret. Comfy Corset Bra is made of premium, breathable, quick-dry fabric, so you won't have to worry about sweat. Plus, it's machine washable and dryer safe.
You can get 3 Comfy Corset bras in your choice of black, nude, or any combination for this special TV discount price of just $59.99. Call or go online now to find out how you can get a second set of 3 for 50% off and free shipping. But you have to order right now. If it's not the most comfortable bra you've ever worn, return it for a full refund of the purchase price. Call or go online to comfycorset.com now.
I'm Dan Abrams, and you're watching Law and Crime.
All right, just before we took a break, Joseph Scott Morgan was talking about touch DNA and referring to WISP. Just so you know, I did look it up. It is something frail, slight, and fleeting. Okay, Joseph Scott Morgan with a great word of the day. We are live in court, and Officer Hernandez is being called to the witness stand again by the defense, talking about him responding to the scene of shots fired.
K-E, correct?
I believe it's G-U-E-R-K-E.
Okay. All right, so Sergeant Gerke had given you an assignment. Is that what you're basically telling us?
Correct.
Okay, and what was the assignment specifically?
To locate video surveillance in the area.
Okay, and how many, well, let me show you what's marked as Exhibit D5, officer. So you mentioned the area. Is this the area that you're referring to, the general area that you were supposed to canvass on September 22nd, 2020?
That is correct.
Okay, so would you agree that this is Brady Street right here?
Yes.
And then as far as Holton, that is right here at the intersection. We have an X marked between Brady and Holton Street. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the canvass, I believe you stated, was to proceed eastward on Brady Street. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it was for how many blocks? Do you remember?
I have indicated on the in my report of where the video surveillance was, we were looking for video cameras in that area.
Okay.
So
would it refresh your recollection to review your report?
yes, I have it here.
You have a copy of it? Okay, go ahead.
So I believe the furthest east is possibly either Regano's on 1004 East Brady Street or Glorioso's. So
Okay, well, let me ask you another question about that, officer. So,
yes.
Was your task to canvass an area of 4 blocks from Holton to Humboldt Avenue along Brady Street?
Can you ask that question again?
Was the task specifically to go 4 blocks from Holton to Humboldt looking for any surveillance videos?
It wasn't specific to Humboldt. It was to canvass east on Brady Street to look for video surveillance.
Okay, well, would you agree that in your report you indicated that you checked from east of the scene from North Holton to North Humboldt Avenue?
That's correct.
Okay, so it was in fact 4 blocks approximately from Holton to Humboldt. Is that correct?
That's about accurate.
Okay. All right. Now, Counsel, can you switch to... Madam Clerk, can you switch back to the state's...
Give me evidence control, Judge.
Fine.
Okay, and Officer, I'm going to show you exhibits D26 first. Now, this is that same area, would you agree, that we just saw on that large poster board?
Yes.
Pretty much, I mean, fairly accurate representation, just condensed in this exhibit. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit 27. Could you describe for us the roads that are depicted here in respect to the area that we were just talking about?
I don't understand your question.
Let me rephrase. Bad question. So do you see that we have Holton Street right here in the intersection of Brady?
Yes, I see that.
Okay, I'm going to mark that with a circle. Would you agree that that's the intersection there?
Yes.
Okay, and then going, if I were to go 2 blocks, I would get to, the first block I'd get to is Cass Street. Would you agree that it's right here if I were to place a square?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the intersection of Cass and Brady. And then a second block would be to Marshall Street, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, your assignment was to go, would it be fair to say you stopped at around Glorioso's at 1011 East Brady Street that day? As part of your canvas, that is.
For video surveillance, correct.
Okay. And so Glorioso's, that's about 3 blocks east on Brady. I'm going to show you what's marked as Exhibit D28. Now, does that show the, I mean, in the context of what I just shown you, okay? Hold on, let me back up a second. So, D26, this is the area on Brady of those 4 blocks between Holton and Humboldt, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then if we break it up, D27 is the first 2 blocks along Brady, and then D28, would you agree, is the second 2 blocks on Brady. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And now, are you able to see the numbers on that map?
Yes.
Okay. So, going back to D27, you said you were able to canvass an area, would you agree, from 709 East Brady all the way to 1011 East Brady. Is that right?
That's about right. Yes.
Okay. So, 709 East Brady. Do you see a 706 and a 708 right here? If I'm where I place my pen?
Yes.
Okay, I know it's very difficult to see that, but are you able to see that from where you're at?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then you proceeded eastbound on Brady, and you went past Marshall Street, right?
Yes, I believe to, yes.
Okay, now officer, this is a small little exercise for you, but would you be able to mark off some of the locations if you were to come up here and mark off the locations or circle them that you had actually checked for video?
Yes, in reference to my report, I would be able to do that, yes.
Okay, can you do that along these two maps here?
Sure. You want me to approach you?
Yes.
Counsel, he doesn't approach counsel table.
Well, Judge, it's the technological restriction that we have. I can have him point it out on the map then.
Bring it up, have him do it here, or point it out on the map.
Sure. All right, so little exercise for you, officer. If you could circle all the buildings that you had actually conducted, trying to actually retrieve video surveillance from.
I didn't retrieve any video surveillance.
Okay.
I indicated in my report the addresses where I observed video surveillance.
Okay. All right, well, let me rephrase that. Where you noticed video cameras or any sort of recording device, and you documented that in your report. If you could mark those locations on both of those maps.
Can I reference my report?
Yes.
All right, so interestingly enough, we have our third police officer taking the stand for the defense in this case. Again, we are expecting the defendant, Edgecomb, is going to be taking the witness stand in his own defense. So these witnesses, I assume, are setting that up, and we'll see if that knife comes into play. I want to thank Joe Richardson and Joseph Scott Morgan. My guests always do an awesome job. That's it for me. I'll be back on Thursday from 12 to 3, but don't go anywhere. Picking up the coverage, Michael Bryan is next. Stay with us.
No one can deliver your mom's homemade short ribs. For starters, your mom doesn't have a restaurant. If she did, it would be impossible to get in. She'd become famous overnight. She'd get talked into franchising everything, and at that point, they wouldn't really taste like your mom's short ribs. No one can deliver your mom's homemade short ribs. That's why Instacart helps deliver the ingredients. Visit instacart.com or download the app to get free delivery on your first order.
You spend 1/3 of your life in bed. That's why at Boll & Branch, we hold ourselves to a higher standard. Our bedding is 100% organic, toxin-free, and fair trade certified. It makes a difference you'll feel and offers a better way to live in this world. Start with our best-selling signature sheets made to get softer with every wash. Visit bollandbranch.com.
It wasn't Meta's fault that yo-yo dieting failed her. Calibrate works with her biology to end an unsustainable cycle. Medication, coaching, lifestyle tweaks. Lose at least 10% of your body weight or your money back. Join Calibrate.com.
It's time to kick off a you beginning with JustFab. With a huge selection of boots, booties, heels, and more. Get your first pair for just $10 when you become a VIP today.
Welcome to Law and Crime. Thanks for joining us here on our continued live coverage of the Derek Chauvin trial.
Get in the car.
Mama. The trial of Robert Durst.
I am not trying to figure out anything. The Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
Never wanted to shoot Mr. Rosenbaum.
I didn't want to hurt anybody.
I'm Dan Abrams.
I'm Terry Austin.
I'm Brian Buckmeyer.
I'm Brian Ross.
I'm Jesse Weber.
And you're watching
Law and Crime.
There has never been a better time to join AARP. This special offer gives you exclusive access to hundreds of AARP discounts, programs, and services that will add real value to your life. As a member, you can get discounts on glasses and eye exams, save on prescription drugs not covered by Medicare. But you can also save on travel, hotels, online movie tickets, restaurants, concert tickets, and so much more.
I didn't know that.
AARP helps members access exclusive benefits like Medicare supplement insurance, even auto insurance.
We can use that.
AARP offers financial tips, career resources, and tools that may help you avoid identity theft and scammers.
That's good to know.
Pick up the phone now to join AARP. 1 year for just $12. That's 25% off the regular membership price. You'll even get a second membership included free. And you'll receive AARP the magazine filled with information and articles important to you. Plus, you'll get hundreds of benefits and an additional free gift if you call now.
And you don't have to be retired to join AARP. You can join at 50 for instant access to many member benefits. For 60 years, AARP has fought to protect your Social Security, Medicare, and more.
That sounds good to me.
Now you know how AARP helps people like us take on today. So don't miss your chance to join now.
Call or go online now to take advantage of this special offer. 1 year for just $12. That's a savings of 25% off the regular membership price. And you'll get a second AARP membership for anyone in your home free. And get a full year subscription to AARP the magazine filled with information and articles important to you. Plus, you get the AARP mobile app that connects you to local events and activities near you. And as a free gift, we'll include this insulated trunk organizer. So don't miss this chance to save 25% and get 1 year for just $12.
Call 1-800-719-3847.
I'm Jesse Weber, and you're watching Law and Crime.